Something's wrong, I feel it circling like vultures around my brain. Couldn't see the danger in your eyes. Draw me in, got me spinning now like water to a drain. You were perfect till I realized you hadn't shown your face. You sing a pretty song to drag my heart along, a siren serenade. You're ringing out your praise. Your love's a wrecking, you know it's wrong. I was deaf to the ringing bells, wanting me to break, deafened by the sirens' soothing lies. I can't leave, I am in too deep, been sinking for a while, prisoner to the same thing I despise, devoted to a fake. You sing a pretty song to drag my heart along, a siren serenade. You're ringing out your praise. Your love's a wrecking, you know it's wrong. It's over, same story. You lose to love and glory. It's over, same story. You lose to love and glory. You sing a pretty song to drag my heart along, a siren serenade. You're ringing out your praise. Your love's a wrecking, you know it's wrong. It's over, same story. You lose to love and glory. It's over, same story. You lose to love and glory.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Midweek Mix-Up Weekend Edition with myself, of course, WandrinDutch, my co-host, the General C, and of course, special guest down below today, Phanto Sir. Welcome
Hello,
all,
everyone.
and of course, welcome to everybody.
Good to have you here, Phanto.
Gradually getting in the
Cheers,
chat.
mate.
Of course, everybody will slowly start rolling in. I know we're always jammed with a number of awesome shows at the same time. Of course, just beforehand, you had Ains with Season Gaming. Right now, you've got, of course, the Iron Lords who go strong until like midnight. And and of course, ourselves, among other shows. So thanks for those who join or stop by in between or afterwards. Whatever you're doing with your Sundays, I hope it's good. But we're going to have some awesome topics this week. We're going to be discussing, of course, our thoughts or impressions on Hi-Fi Rush, however little or much that might be. Our thoughts again after sitting on it on the Developer Direct, and certain things that, of course, Phil Spencer mentioned in the article and interview with IGN. And we're going to be talking The Last of Us TV series as well. But before we do any of that, let's get into our introductions. First and foremost, my awesome co-host, General C. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's been a quiet week for me. I haven't streamed, some stuff going on in my personal life. So yeah, I took a break this week, but I'm going to be back to it next week. I did plan on streaming over the weekend, but you know how life gets, so that got in the way. Been playing a bit of Hunt Showdown. That's really it, apart from Hi-Fi Rush, which I'm really close to the end. So those have been really the two games I've played. No, tell a lie, I played Sea of Thieves as well on Sea of Thieves Tuesday with Mick. So they're really the only games I've been playing. Absolutely loving Hi-Fi Rush, and I'm still addicted to Hunt Showdown, and I can't stop thinking about playing it.
Awesome stuff, awesome stuff. And of course, special guest today, Phantos, sir. How are you doing today, sir? What you been up to? What you been playing?
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. Well, just been playing Witcher 3, to be perfectly honest. I've played a little bit of Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
I did like it, but when I get involved in a game, I just like go 2 feet in, like I'm all in. So I started Witcher 3 properly, when the update came through, and then just carried on through that. Had a bit of a break over Christmas, and then then I ended up completing like the main storyline. And I've done Heart of Stone, and now I'm probably about halfway through Blood and Wine.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm chilling out in like Tucson, in my vineyard. Just rocking it around the country.
Oh.
Beside taking lots of photos, it's been really good. Because I did play Witcher 3 on the PS4 several years ago, and it was great. And I got what I thought was near the end. It wasn't near the end. It was nowhere near the end. I just got to where like the Wild Hunt had sort of like appeared properly for the first time, and I was like, oh, this must be the end of the game, and it wasn't the end of the game. So yeah, just loving it. I kind of just don't want it to end, but it will. And then obviously I've still got a plethora of games that came out last year to look at, and then obviously we've got this year that's stacked.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like almost like, having to put all of the games on a dartboard and just blindly throw a dart, see what you hit, and just go for it. We're just spoiled for choice at the minute.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a thing as well. The good thing about the FOMO around Hi-Fi Rush is the fact that everybody who has an Xbox has it essentially. So you don't have to worry about the monetary aspect of Hi-Fi Rush. Everybody has it, so you don't have to worry about FOMO because it's there and it will be forever. Whereas the likes of Dead Space and Hogwarts and things, that's the kind of FOMO that people have got because, of course, Dead Space looks brilliant. It's getting unbelievable reviews, and people are going to get they're going to get serious FOMO over that. And I suspect, judging by early impressions that I've seen multiple places, Hogwarts exceeds expectations. So it sounds like that's going to be.
I've seen some leaked gameplay because some people have actually got the game really early.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it looks really impressive. I'm toying with the idea of pre-ordering it. Don't really pre-order many games these days, apart from Star Wars Jedi Survivor, because I know how good the first one was.
Yes, no, I saw you tweet that the other day. So question for you, Jen, if you pre-order Hogwarts, will you go for the deluxe, which you get 3 days before on the 7th of Feb, or will you just go for the 10th of Feb one?
I think I'll just go for the 10th. I'm not in no rush to play it. I've got so many other games to get through at the moment anyway, but I am really looking forward to it. Whether I get it on release is another thing. I think I'll pay attention to the reviews, see what people say about it, and if the reviews hype me up, then I might pick it up day one. But I'm also going through the Harry Potter movies at the moment, So that
Right.
might just be another thing that turns me to buying the game.
Yeah, I was slightly too old for the Harry Potter train, no pun intended, when the books first came out. But then my all
I
the
thought we
books and
lost
did
you
all
for
the
a moment
voices and everything. So I kind of like got. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'm just saying, I read all the books to my kids and got into them that way. So yeah, so I love the world. I think it's awesome, and it would be great to have a fully open world role playing, game done right. I was buzzing when I heard Simon Pegg was on board as well, because he's like, I've loved Simon Pegg since Spaced was on telly. Yeah, so I am looking forward to it. I did want to pre-order it myself, but there's so many games coming that I'm kind of a bit hesitant to, because it's a lot of money and there's a lot coming out. I did that with Callisto, and as much as some people found it quite Marmitey, I really liked it. Like, I still really like it, and I think that comes down to the combat. It either clicks with you or it doesn't. And it's very different to Dead Space combat. But I loved it. So maybe it's just because I like sort of B-movie horrors that I liked it as much as I did. But yeah, I think I'm just as hyped as everyone for the games that are coming out over the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many games as well to look forward to. So, so many. Thankfully, like I say, we've got an abundance of them, and having Game Pass saves us a fortune on first-party stuff to an extent. So,
yeah, definitely.
But there's so many huge third-party releases as well, like you mentioned. Of course, in the space of just a few weeks, you've had Dead Space and I was going to say Harry Potter, but Hogwarts Legacy. And then, as Jen mentioned, you've got Jedi Survivor coming up. You've got literally, just like I mentioned there, excluding the Game Pass games that we're getting, I had 13 games in the list that I was interested in just the first half of the year. It's a lot of lot of money.
See, I was torn between Jedi Survivor and Resident Evil, because they come out, I think, just days apart, pretty much. So I put it to my Twitch chat, and they chose Jedi Survivor. So, which I'm not mad about, because I was going to play either of them. If I could get both of them like at the same time, I would. But I'm going to hold out for Resi and play Survivor, which is going to keep me occupied for some hours. I'm going to go through Fallen Order again before that as well.
Yeah, I haven't played Fallen Order since it had its patch. So that'll be a good reason to play it. Be a good reason to play it again just before it comes out. Yeah, it's I think there's a lot of games that are on my list that I've got there. It's like Resident Evil's one that thankfully I'm not paying for. It's a friend that's a massive Resident Evil fan. So he covers the cost of that one. So I'll be getting Jedi.
Nice.
But I'm waiting on Dead Space. With money and things like that, I just thought I'd just wait on it. I've played Dead Space before, so I'm in no uber rush to play the remake as yet, because I know exactly what to expect. It's just a nice.
I'm in the exact same boat. I'm in no rush to play it.
Yeah.
I've played it before, so
and another thing we've got
eventually
as well is this kind of side kicker is, do I even buy it at all? Because within a year, it's going to be in Game Pass.
You know what? I was thinking exactly the same thing.
And I know it looks great, but with it having played Dead Space before, I don't have the FOMO that I would with a brand new release.
Yes, and I've recently played the original, the 2008 one.
Yeah.
It's on my Series XR drive as we speak. And I was playing it through last year thinking I'll play this in anticipation for the new one.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people I've heard say, oh, well, if you've played the old one recently, you don't really need to worry about the new one immediately, because it doesn't deviate too much. There are some differences.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not really a diehard Dead Space fan, then you're not gonna miss out. And like I just thought, well, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, it's going to be on sale, or 12 months be on Game Pass. So yeah, I mean, and then obviously there's the second-hand market. You could go to CEX or something like that, get it on disc in a few months, and it'll be significantly cheaper as well. So it's just resisting the FOMO, isn't it?
Yep.
And just if you get over that, the initial sort of week or two of the game coming out, if you get past that period, then you're usually all right. And you don't.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tempted to grab it, because I have seen people posting clips and screenshots on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, it looks really pretty. I could just play that right now, but I'm gonna fight the edge.
Me too.
See, I think the only ones I would get FOMO with in recent, like over the recent months, because they're not in Game Pass, are Hogwarts, if I didn't happen to pick that up at launch, and Jedi. I'd be unbelievably FOMO for Jedi if I couldn't pick that up at launch. But Dead Space, I'm happy to wait on that one, to be fair. I know it looks unbelievable, it looks astonishing, but I can wait, because I've played the original. I've still got the original installed. Like I was, again, not that long ago, like last year, I played it again. So I'm not in a massive rush to play it, so I can wait on it, and especially for the cost. Like, I'm even considering, like I say, just wait until it drops into Game Pass.
Yeah, and similarly with Eugen and Resi 4, if it's a remake, so play a game where the story is a continuation of something that you've really enjoyed, and you're going to be experiencing something fresh and new, rather than playing a game that you've already played but with a different coat of paint on, as it were. So I think you've definitely both made the right choice if it was a toss-up between one or the other. And like we say, they'll all either end up on Game Pass, or you'll be able to pick them up cheaper at some point in the near future anyway.
Yeah, Jedi Survivor is definitely one I don't want to wait for, though. After sleeping on the first game and waiting to play that, and then getting round to it, I wish I'd played it sooner, because that bloody ending was so fucking good. We all know what we're talking about. Darth Vader, the Darth Vader bit. It was so good. It was like, it was almost as good as that one scene in Rogue One, that Darth Vader moment.
Yeah.
That was like
Rogue
the
One
most badass bit.
Rogue One is still the best modern day Star Wars film by a long mile, a long stretch.
Just that Vader scene, it makes me want a sort of more horror orientated Star Wars movie where like he's a bit more Jason Friday the 13th-esque style movie where he's just butchering rebels. That would be such a fucking good Darth Vader series or movie. Just make it Disney.
Yeah.
I think as the years go by now, we're going to get more R-rated content from Disney. Now they've realised that there is a large market for it.
Well, you've just seen what happened to The Boys. The Boys is officially the number one superhero series over any Marvel property.
That makes me happy, though, because Disney are going to look at that and go, okay, we need to change up our pace, because what we're doing is not working right now.
We're still catering to the kids when who watch us are the adults.
They've been taking hits with their TV shows and their movies. They're not doing as well as they used to do. I think a part of that is because a lot of their TV shows are so half-assed. They put some of the TV shows out in 6-episode increments, and by the time you get to that 6th episode, everything feels like it's rushed. The story just feels like it's been brushed over in certain aspects. And that's why certain things don't work for TV.
Tony says he is a TV show.
Hulk. I am.
Are you on a streaming service, Tony? Where are you? Where are you based?
He's on B-Flix.
Pay-per-view, one of the naughty adult movies, probably, or TV shows.
Television.
On Babe Station.
Yeah. Oh dear me.
I lost my train of thought there.
Oh, you know where to find me. Red tube, isn't it, Tony? Oh god. But yes, we're gonna dive into even more game and TV series talk anyway. And while we do that, of course, it wouldn't be the same if I didn't have some awesome gameplay on. And you'll be able to enjoy today having the awesome gameplay of Hi-Fi Rush. First segment on first, and then of course I've got the second section of gameplay that I recorded yesterday, which was from one of the best levels in the game, and I've literally cut short that gameplay bit just before the second final boss battle because I want people to experience that and not watch it. So yeah, definitely. But we're going to get into it, of course. We all watched and reacted live to the Developer Direct on Wednesday. Of course, we got our raw impressions straight after the show to kind of discuss what we thought of the show and everything in between. But having sat on it for a few days, and of course having had a chance to play the awesome shadow-dropped game Hi-Fi Rush, even a little bit, then of course we're going to dive into that a bit more and discuss kind of what we saw, what our impressions now about certain games, and what we kind of want to see more of. First of all, Fanto, we haven't had your opinion at all on the Developer Direct since it went live. So what's your overall thoughts on it? You're muted, by the way.
Apologies. It was stellar. It was absolutely what it needed to be. It did what it needed to do. Everyone's expectations were tempered going into it. And then they dropped a shadow release, and everyone's mind was just blown. And it's just been the best way that the game could have been, sort of like handed out to the public in that direct. It was just, there's not much more I can say about it. The whole concept behind the developers, them getting a say, not having any frills and these cheesy presenters and stuff. It was shot really well. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. The only thing that was obviously a bit of a negative was the fact that we didn't get a date for Forza, and to me it looks like it's probably been delayed. And that's just my opinion, but if everything else gets a definitive date and we don't get a date for that one game, that would suggest to me that for whatever reason, whether it's so it doesn't clash with another game that may or may not be coming out before it, that it's probably been pushed back to end of the summer maybe. But yeah, apart from that, couldn't fault it at all. It was short, it was sweet, it was punchy. There was lots of gameplay. Some people, were complaining about some games like Minecraft Legends and things like that. And the thing is, like, not every game's for everyone, so I can totally get why you're not gonna be into everything. You're not expected to be. But I thought everything that was shown well. Possibly Minecraft went on for a little too long and didn't show really what the meat and bones of the game did. I think if they maybe explained the game a little bit more and the mechanics and things, people could possibly get a bit more hyped for it. If it's if it's a sort of a strategy-based game, or whether it's a full action game, a bit like what's the one that we have at the minute, the Minecraft.
Dungeons.
The isometric dungeons, yes, the isometric one, yeah. So it looked quite similar to that, but cell shaded. So to me, I was just like, oh, it's like Minecraft Dungeons, but cell shaded. But it's not that at all. So yeah, I think they could have maybe done a better job explaining that game. But aside from that, yeah, I couldn't say it was, they couldn't have done it any better. And I just hope that they keep this format. I think they'll be mad if they didn't. And they do it either maybe quarterly is too often, but I would say 3 times a year would be bang on. Beginning of the year, then mid-year, then just before the holidays, some sort of teasers for something that's dropped just before Christmas. And then it's coming the next year and stuff like that. But yeah, this format, I think is it's killer, and it's the way to go.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, I think with Minecraft Legends as well, and this is another thing. I also agree that they didn't really get into the meat and bones of it. We did see gameplay. We saw kind of what it was, but I still don't think people quite understand what it's about. And they've done separate streams themselves to discuss it and talk about it and show it off and things, but nobody knows where to find that stuff. And I think
you've got to actually hunt it out.
Yeah, other than we know you build a base, they build a base, you attack each other. What else? Like what else is there anything else about the game, or is that just that is the game, or like what we're doing? So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what it's about. Again, the glory of Game Pass is the fact that we don't have to buy these things; we can try them.
Absolutely.
So if it turns out, because we could look at it, then there's been a lot of times where I've thought, I'm not gonna I'm not that interested, and then you pick up the game on Game Pass and you're like, I absolutely love this game. Like, I'm actually going to go and get it now. And I've done that on numerous occasions where a game's been on Game Pass. I didn't think much of it beforehand, played it, loved it. Minecraft Dungeons I thought looked cool at the first instance, but I wasn't quite sure how it was going to do it, and then I loved it. It could be that I end up really enjoying Legends, but I don't think from what I've seen so far that it showed itself too well yet, but it's well enough to get a few people maybe intrigued about it to see what it's about.
I think you could probably say the same about Redfall as well. Up until the direct, I for one just thought it was like a Left 4 Dead clone, and I know a lot of people did. But like coming out of the back of that direct, we got so much more information, and it's an open world. But I was a huge, massive Left 4 Dead fan when I had my 360, played the first Left 4 Dead so much online. It was one of the first sort of 4-player co-op games that I played alongside Gears of War, and then Left 4 Dead 2 just brought that up another notch, and it was just as awesome. And because of the style of game, and we saw Back 4 Blood come out a few years ago, my brain just sort of the synapses fired and went, oh, that it just looks like that. So for this whole time, at least a year, I've been thinking Redfall's just going to be like Vampires Left 4 Dead, and it's not at all. So that was a pleasant surprise, and I know some people have a bittersweet experience with Far Cry because of the Ubisoft formula that has developed over the years. But I've always been a fan of the Far Cry games in principle, and certainly from the early days of playing them. So if Redfall is more similar, is akin to Far Cry in gameplay, but it's a co-op game or a single player experience, then I'm 100 times more hyped for Redfall now than I was before the direct. So that's another way that the direct did the job it was supposed to do. It created hype for a game that I wouldn't have been massively bothered about. I've downloaded, pre-installed it. I wouldn't have done that before the direct came out. So yeah, I was a sucker for the marketing.
Yeah, got to completely agree on Redfall as well, to be honest. The first time that I started to get more interested in Redfall was the last showcase, when they showed off the gameplay for the first time, and I thought, okay, now you've piqued me interest, because what I'd seen about it beforehand, I wasn't really that bothered. The last one piqued me interest, and this one's pretty much sold us on it now as well. Really looking forward to Redfall now. Super looking forward to it.
that's basically what I've heard from everyone. Is just like after the direct, everyone's just like, oh my god, like Redfall is the game, to the point where obviously there is still a lot of talk about Starfield, but it's a different game, it's a different experience. The buzz around Redfall now is brilliant. So that's 2nd of May. That one's due, isn't it?
Yeah, 2nd of May.
So
it's not too long away.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
No, it'll fly by. Definitely.
Yes. Feels like a while away, but it'll be here in a blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing I like about it as well. And again, like people mention Starfield and then Redfall, and then we've just literally got out of nowhere Hi-Fi Rush, which we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about, and then Minecraft Legends, and you talk about the diversity of the portfolio now. It's insane. So now you've got like an RTS version, like an RTS / dungeony version of Minecraft. Coming up, you've got a Far Cry-esque vampire slaying game in Redfall, and then you've got Starfield, which is a giant Western RPG, a huge giant Western RPG set in space. And we've just had a rhythm-based action adventure game in Hi-Fi Rush. Like, none of those games are the same, not even slightly. They are all vastly different. And that's not including the third-party stuff that we've got coming into the platform, either exclusively or timed or just dropping into Game Pass. And then you've also got smaller titles that'll be dropping in there, like indie titles and things like that. There's a lot to look forward to. And again, before, when the show started, there was absolutely no way in hell. Because we were saying, even just beforehand, we know exactly what we're getting in this show. There's 4 games and nothing more. Like, that's all we're expecting, so that's all we're doing. And as soon as the show started, Mick said, why is Tango Gameworks here? And we're like, how is Tango? Why is Tango in the trailer? Tango's not on this.
Yeah, it had like the 5 developers on the front screen. Yeah.
Or were we wrong? Then they put the lineup on, it said redacted, Tango Gameworks. We're like, what? Okay, fair enough. You have my interest.
That's how you do
the
it.
Hi-Fi Rush announcement was just such a surprise, and part of me wanted to say it on stream. What if this gets shadow dropped? But I never did. And then
you should always speak your mind, because you do prophesize these things more often than not. You prophesized the kid that came on stage at the Game Awards that was going on about the reformed Rabbi Bill Clinton. Like
that was crazy.
Of the show, you were like,
I said something would happen, and
it'd be crazy if someone came on the stage.
But no, with Hi-Fi Rush specifically, I think the reason it surprised me wasn't because of just the fact that it was a new game. It was just how well it showed itself off. Like, as soon as the game came on, we were all like, holy shit, this looks good. This looks so much fun. Yeah. It looks so vibrant. It looks just so much fun to play. Like, a really good world. And then the guy afterwards, like the producer, John Johannes, and he was like, yeah, so we can play this just after the show. It's available today. Like, sorry.
He replied to your tweet today as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. To be fair, he's been unbelievably active today, so I think he's doing catch-up. But he's went round and everybody who's played and posted the game, everybody who's talked about the game, he's went round and personally thanked everyone for playing. So hats off to him as well, because that's absolutely awesome. He even put a post up saying, I'd reply to all the foreign tweets, but unfortunately the translate on the app isn't working. So I'm going to find a way around it and reply to everybody that's reposted from every other country as well.
Nice.
So hats off to him.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing as well I read, because there's so much I've read about this game, and we'll dive into it now. And I think there's far more into it, and there's far more like pop culture references in the game than a lot of people understand, or even have picked up on. And that's not because they don't know it, but a lot of the audience is going to be younger as well, so they might not know the references that have been referenced. But before I kind of jump into that stuff, Phil Spencer mentioned in his interview, Oh yeah, it's the team that came to us and said, obviously we're like super confident on this game. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just shadow drop it at like developer direct? And Phil was like, okay, if you want to go with that, we'll roll with it. So that's it. Like that's literally how we did. It was just like, okay, well if you're confident enough, then let's go. And so glad that they did. So glad, and I was so happy as well that Shinji Mikami kind of said essentially to the guy on stage, he was like, well, no, this is not for me to tell. This is your game, so you tell people about your game and what's happening with it. And I loved that. I loved that. And even afterwards, like there was a few people still like trying to attribute the game to him, and I was like, well, no, he's come out specifically to say like, you take your plaudits. This is your game.
He's just like the studio head of Tango, right?
Yeah, he's a studio head. He was the creative director on this game, but it wasn't his game. This was strictly John Johannes's game, and he obviously helped them make it. So it's a complete opposite flip of the rules this time round. It's usually the opposite way around. Like John Johannes would be the creative director, and Mikami would be the guy doing everything else. So and having those ideas, but it's again for a studio that's done strictly, and even they said about it in kind of interviews afterwards. This is from a studio that makes horror games specifically. Never made anything else.
Yeah.
To come out with something so vastly and wildly different.
There was something I saw on Twitter, and I don't know if it's 100% true or not, but apparently the director of this game, basically he said that it was inspired by the scene from Shaun of the Dead where they're hitting the zombie with
Did you not see? I tagged you in John's tweet.
Oh,
I tagged you in John's
Don't stop me now.
I don't think I caught that, but I saw like a few people retweeting
It was Shaun
a
of the
tweet
Dead.
that someone had posted.
Yeah, that was the whole. Basically, the game and its inspiration, its entire inspiration was Shaun of the Dead.
That just makes me love the game even more because I absolutely love Shaun of the Dead.
Well, that's
the
why,
reason I got that movie framed.
It's specifically the pub scene where they're going in sync to the music, bashing them on the head.
Yeah,
that was his. That was the entire purpose of it. He wanted to create a game that was as stupid as that was, but sort of like enjoyable. But it's overall, he said it was not only Shaun of the Dead, but kind of it's Edgar Wright.
Yeah, Edgar Wright. He does a lot of
Wright's work as a whole, including the likes of Baby Driver and things like that.
Scott Pilgrim as well.
Yeah, and that was
Scott
the
Pilgrim
idea.
movie was done by him.
That was exactly.
He originally was going to do the Ant-Man movie, I think, and he ended up not doing that. So that could have been very different for the MCU.
Yeah, there was creative differences with him and Marvel, which is annoying because I always sit there and wonder what could have been.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, there aren't a lot of bigger IPs out there now for him to take on board with regards to Marvel. So I don't know whether or not he'll ever get involved. And especially with the creative differences, then he might just not be bothered.
It's a shame because he's not just a director, he's a visionary. Look, he's made some of the greatest movies in our time.
Cult classics.
Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Not so much the third movie in that Cornetto trilogy, The World's End, but it's still an okay movie. But
still good, yeah.
Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver, like they're amazing movies, and they've got really great soundtracks as well. And you can see the inspiration.
Akin to Tarantino, in that every film that he's done has an iconic soundtrack, so you can you hear a song and you're transported to the movie. I can't listen to Don't Stop Me Now by Queen without thinking of them braying the shit out of zombies. So it's done what it was set out to do. The inspiration for Hi-Fi Rush, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and it's there's many other things as well. So I think it was the second boss, maybe the guy with the green hair. There was some sections in there, and people won't know because a lot of people don't watch JoJo. But for those who watch JoJo, there's a little section there where he starts shouting and things like that, and there's like loads of pop-ups come up beside his head. and he like sweeps them away. That's a JoJo reference.
I saw that. Yeah.
Right.
That's specifically a JoJo reference. Now, the reason the cat's named 808 is after a 90s drum synthesizer called the TR-808, which is, of course, a beat synthesizer for drums, which was the entire
old
reason why
MIDI
it's called
synth.
808. Yeah, it's a drum synth from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest hip hop kind of drum synths that there was there, that the reason everyone refers to it all the time. So there's a massive kind of musical influence there.
Yeah.
But it's just all the way through. It's just phenomenal, and the artwork is just out.
And the way
just,
like the world moves to the music as well is amazing.
like,
I mean,
everything. Well, one guy noticed as well, like, you can literally turn the music completely off, and all of the sounds because everything's synchronized in the world, all of the natural sounds of the world still keep the beat.
Mm-hmm.
Still keep the beat, so you can play entirely with the music off, and you'd still be perfectly fine to be able to do the game, because everything's
even snapping his fingers to the beat is a cool little
and tapping his
It's
foot.
got that
Tapping his
extra
foot.
level of accessibility for everyone, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
and the way like taps his foot as well. It's pretty cool.
He taps his foot on the light attack, and he clicks his hand on the heavy attack. So he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, but he's going click, click, click went on the heavy. So it's like actually this, it's mad.
It's on the offbeat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so well done, like, and like none of it to me. Like, a lot of people mention, oh well, it's a bit like cheesy and stuff, but I didn't actually find the acting or anything cheesy. I thought the entire thing was absolutely so well acted from start to finish. I loved there wasn't a character I actually hated, and even the bad guys I loved, because I thought every one of the bad guys and every one of the bosses was unique. I loved like the intro sequence as well, where you kind of talk to him and he's like in his own little world, because he goes into that, like, I liked how it broke the kind of fourth wall, and he's doing his tutorial, but it's all in his head, but everybody else in the real world's like, hello, like, what are you doing? He's like, chai, and the robots are standing there and they're like, is this a kid? Like,
I'd love to see a Netflix show of this and continue a story in a Netflix show. I mean, we know Microsoft's got a good partnership with Netflix. They've got the Gears of War movie, I think it is, and I think there's a Gears of War anime in the works.
I mean, let's face it, Netflix needs something.
Yeah,
this would be perfect.
If you have a look at how successful they did Cyberpunk, that was, I loved the site. It was just a limited series. It was a one-off, but Jesus, I loved that, and it got better by the episode. And by the end, it was like, I'm gutted that's finished, because like specifically the last couple of episodes of Cyberpunk Edgerunners was phenomenal. But this doesn't even need that, because if you have a look at the characters and the animation itself, if I was Netflix, I would just go to that animator and say, and the guy who did all the cutscenes that you see in there, I liked his tweet earlier on as well.
He's a comic artist and
he's a
illustrator.
Japanese comic artist and illustrator, and they approached him to do all of that. If I was Netflix, I would just approach him as well as Tango and say, listen guys, do you want to make this in even a limited series? So it's got a one-off season or something like that. You could
5 or 6 episodes.
Yeah. You could easily turn literally the story of this game into an anime.
Or just something in between games would be nice, right? To set up the story going forward. If there's going to be a sequel, I mean, I haven't completed it myself yet. I think I've got about 2 hours-ish left on the game.
Yeah, you have 2 hours left. I know exactly how long you've got based on my own play. I'm like, I know you've got 2 hours left. I love it.
You could even, Minecraft story mode.
Yeah.
And you've on Netflix, you've got the whole sort of like, you can choose what you're going to do and stuff in the game.
Yes.
You could even have an option of having something like that, where you could just watch it as a show, or you could try and like rhythm match to do different things while watching it and have like an interactive show. For those people who aren't sort of video gamers. As they'd call us. But yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. And if conversations aren't being had about this being an animated show coming, they're crazy. because it'd sell gangbusters.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's if you have a look at anyone who watches anime anyway, if you have a look at everybody's timeline when they've spoke about this, it'd be like, I'd be absolutely down for this being a series. Like, definitely. It's just like the world is so vibrant. Even like the robots that you speak to and things, they're so like, they're all likable. Even if they're meant to be bad guys, like they're actually likable, all of them.
Yeah, I'd make it my point just to go up to every robot and listen to what they had to say, because I thought it was funny or interesting.
They've all got really cool in the throwback they've got inside to Evil Within, and the one thing I like about that as well is it isn't just
the two little robots.
it isn't just a one-off either. It's like literally the entire game has about 7 or 8 places.
I think they shot in every single mission apart from the tutorial mission.
Yeah, yep. Everyone, and they're in little hidden spots, so you've got to go through the level and find these little nooks and crannies, and they're like literally hidden in vents and things. And the funniest one I seen was literally in an event, and he's like, a little piece of what you call them things out in the desert where it's like not a mirage, but
Tumbleweed?
not a mirage. Do you know when it's like a bit of not tranquility,
an oasis?
Yes. Like an oasis in the desert. That's what he calls it. And it's like literally just a nice like office room in a vent. But it's not like surrounded by murder and things. And I was like, that is so cool. But I found about half of them so far, so I'm gonna make it my mission to go through and find out where they are and the rest of them. And they've got like it's a different story every time you speak to them, and he's investigating a different murder or something like that. So it's really cool.
How, having completed the game then fully, or at least to its end story, how long was the playthrough?
My playthrough on the money, because of course it tells you how long it takes you to complete each zone afterwards, because it's a scoreboard game essentially. So it tells you how long it takes to complete each zone. So it took me 8 hours 59 minutes and 25 seconds to complete the game. On the first playthrough, that's the first story. I'm playing it on normal as well, so if somebody's playing it on easy, it might take them 7-8 hours. If you're playing it on very hard, it's going to take maybe 10 to 12 hours. So yeah, it's about 8.5, 9 hours, depending on how quick you are getting through. Now, bear in mind as well, I'm the type of person that tries to find everything, even on the first run. So I'll go and hit every box, talk to everything. Try and find different avenues, and I'll miss them. Of course, you miss them at times because sometimes you just swerve the camera around and you just miss like a little gap at the top there that you might have been able to get through. But so I did a little bit of exploration in there as well, just to find as much as I could. I specifically looked for things like the health add-ons and hearts and things like that, because of course they upgrade your health. So always looked for them in every level. But yeah, so about, I would say for the average gamer going through it, you're talking probably 9.5 hours. That's
good. It makes it more accessible still.
Absolutely. And the best thing about it, in my opinion, as well, is the fact that everything is a stage. So like you'll do a level and then it'll give you a break and you go back to the little hideout and you chill out. And between every level, you go back to the hideout first, and it'll save itself there. You can do your upgrades. You can chill out. Like you can just pause the game, or you can just leave them sitting on the couch for a bit and things like that. And then just relax and do whatever you want to do. Go and get yourself a drink or something, and come back and play another level. So it gives you a nice break in between as well. And with it being a rhythm game, you're concentrating pretty much non-stop, because you want to be listening to the music, you're playing it, you do.
Yeah.
But there was not one point in time that I played it start to finish that I was bored. Not one single time that I was bored of that, and I just wanted to play it. If it wasn't for the fact that I had to sleep, I would have probably just played it in its entirety in one sitting. I would have done. If it wasn't for sleep, I would have happily done that. But no, there's so much, and that's not even the end of the game. So I asked on Twitter as well. I was like, so how do you unlock these extra costumes? And the costumes unlock after the game. And the reason they unlock after the game is because you're not finished when the game ends. That's pretty much when the game starts. So you can't access a lot of areas in the first playthrough because you don't have the characters with you. you don't have their abilities, so you can't unlock certain avenues without their abilities, and you can't go back with level selector until the game finishes. So when the game's finished, you unlock level selector, and you've got all the characters with you, so you can go back, replay all the levels, unlock all the hidden areas, find all these extra bits. Kit not just you, but every character in the game out in a different outfit, including 808 and everyone else that you get. You can buy all the outfits for them as well, not with actual money, with in-game credits, which is obviously another bonus. It's even funny that they kind of had a little joke around with the DLC. So they've got like a $8 DLC for the deluxe edition. And you get a t-shirt. You get a t-shirt with that says, I bought the deluxe edition. All I get is a lousy t-shirt.
That's pretty funny.
Which is awesome. But following completing the game, you get, like I mentioned, you get level selector. You get what's known as the battle tower, which is 60 stages, which is kind of a progressive, like kind of horde mode all the way at the top. It gets more difficult every time. You unlock the jukebox, so you can essentially you unlock tickets when you finish levels now, and you unlock things. So you unlock tickets instead of cash at the end of a level instead. These when you've finished the game, those can unlock character models. So you can like take poster shots of your favorite characters and things like that with different backdrops. You unlock the jukebox. So you've got loads of different music for the hideout. Again, like I say, level selector, the battle tower. Also in the levels, as I mentioned, with the hidden areas to unlock things, there's also stages that you can unlock called challenge modes, and each one of them has certain bosses, and for those who are really good at beat matching, I wouldn't say play these challenges if you're not good at beat matching though. For those who want that extra level of difficulty, go and do the challenges. They're numbered doors, you can't get into them till when the game finishes. And each one of those has either a couple of bosses or a boss, and you've got to stay within the parameters. So it'll say, okay, you need to get a rating of a minimum of A, and you've got to have a beat match at least of a continuous 80 all the way through. And if you drop, you'll drop off if you miss a beat, and then every time you hit a beat...
Well, that's me buggered then.
Every time you hit a beat, it'll go back up again. So by the time you've finished the section, you'll have got to have had at least 80 beat matches. Now, you can miss them in between, but every time you miss one, it takes one off. So if you've got like 50 and then you drop one and it goes down to 49 and then you hit another one, it goes back to 50. So basically work your way up to 80 and you've got to keep it there until the end and keep the rating high. So I play okay at the beat matching, but I'm not by any means great. And I failed the first one that I tried, but I've tried like a level 8 version, so like a really hard one. So I think they're progressively harder when you find them as opposed to all the way through. But there's just so much more extra content in there, like it's ridiculous. And again, like I say, you've got these hidden sections where you've got to find the evil within characters dotted around the place. You've got loads of different collectibles to find. There's a huge spray paint artist drawing that you collect. So you go around and find the spray paintings on the wall throughout the game, and that makes a massive montage on the wall in the hideout. And afterwards, you can kind of just look at that, or you can screenshot it and things like that, and save it as your wallpaper or whatever you want to do. So there's so much like additional content when the game finishes that you just like, if you want to play it again, you've got much more of an incentive to do that, as opposed to just playing the game to play it again. There's actually a reason to go back and play through all of it, because you couldn't have done everything in the first playthrough. So technically, the game isn't 9 hours long. If you really love the game, it's at least 18 hours long, minimum.
I've seen people try and take jabs at it. There was an idiot on Twitter that reckons the game was 6 hours long. No, it ain't.
Yeah, I was like, no, someone tried to say that as well to I've forgotten who it was, the God of War creator, not Corey, the other guy.
Jaffe.
Yeah, Jaffe.
David Jaffe. Yeah.
They tried to tell some other kid as well.
I'm a huge fan of Jaffe.
Some other kid as well the other day was trying to say, oh yeah, I've already beat it. He's like, what do you mean you've already beat it? It literally just came out. And he's like, yeah, it took us like 4.5 hours. I was like, no, physically impossible to play that game in 4.5 hours. So I've been playing it for 3.5 hours and I'm only done the second boss. It's literally impossible to beat the game in 4.5 hours.
Some people...
But I don't get people that try and take a jab at games like that, you can go and complete a Resident Evil game in less than an hour.
Yep. You can.
But no one complains about that, do they?
No. But that's what I'm saying. But even this game, even if you could, there is literally zero workaround to finish it. There is no hidden set areas. There's no trick ways to get to the end like there is in Zelda, where you can literally go from nothing to the end boss on Zelda Breath of the Wild in like 20 minutes. I think it's 25 or 26 minutes is the world record for beating Breath of the Wild.
That's right.
There isn't a way around getting from the start to the end in this game quicker than the route takes you. There is literally no way to get around it. So you will minimum, if you're playing on easy, minimum 7 hours. Minimum. If you're like missing everything, you're not hitting any of the boxes to collect the money, you're not upgrading your character, you're just doing from point A to point B, killing what's in between, and getting to the boss. If you're missing out on everything, then of course you're going to finish the game in like 8 hours or 7 hours and a half. But I don't understand. Again, much like you,
even if you go to
like you guys, I don't understand why you would play a game and not experience all the game has to offer. Like, I can understand if you don't like a game, then you would just go, I just want to get through this just so I can get it done and just get it off my shelf. But
so I'm like that in games where I just like to look around. There's no way that I'm rushing, especially on my first playthrough. I'm not rushing to get anywhere. I'm taking that game in, the story, the environment of the game. I'm just soaking that all up. I don't get why anyone would rush for a game.
I've
beat it the first time.
Yeah, I'm the same. I always approach a game like you want to experience it, and to experience it, you've got to savor it, take your time. Obviously, different game styles and game types kind of affect the way that you approach them and the way that you play them. Some games you can just sit down for an hour and play it for an hour and you don't know, half an hour. Like, you can go jump on Forza and do a couple of races and then switch off or whatever. And then there's other games where you just get fully immersed in the world and you're there for the best part of however much spare time you've got. Back in the day, Red Dead Redemption, I just used to live in the Wild West and stuff. So
you mentioned Red Dead now. Now I want to play Red Dead.
The one thing that stops me from playing Red Dead nowadays because I've been spoiled by 60 frames. So every time I play Red Dead 1 or 2, I'm like, the frame rate's just too choppy. And I don't have a PC powerful enough to
Red
run
Dead
it.
1 on Xbox has a 60 frames update now.
Does it?
For a while. Yeah.
Really?
Is it one that you've got to switch on yourself? Because I know some games don't put it on automatically.
It was enhanced by Xbox 4K 60.
I wish they'd let them do the same for Red Dead 2.
Red Dead 2.
Red Dead 1 post update looks like a brand new. Honestly, it holds up now.
I'm downloading it.
Yeah. It got the update.
I'm downloading it.
Yeah, it got the update. It's phenomenal. It's so sharp and crisp now. It's brilliant.
Something tells me I'll be playing Red Dead 1 again soon.
Yeah.
We'll posse up, Jen.
But yeah, on that
I wish
mark,
they treated Red Dead 2 online better. That's ridiculous how that game got treated.
Yes, I know. Sorry, gone into a Red Dead tangent.
But no, on your point, I also don't understand why you wouldn't savor what a game has to offer. I can understand if you start the game and you don't like it and you go, okay, right, okay, I just want to get to the end to say I've completed it. There's times, of course, when I've done that where I've just went, you know where it is. I'm on it. I love the game, but there's so much shit I need to get through, and especially when you host a podcast and there's a lot of games out or coming out,
of course,
and you've got it downloaded. You're like, right, I'm going to finish this game because we still need to talk about this game, but this game's just come out. So, as much as I love what this game has to offer, I don't have the time to sit here and go around and do everything. I just need to get to the end. I'll come back afterwards and do that. But I'll just get to the end, finish it, and then play the next game. Sometimes you need to do that, but for people who just literally see it for the purpose of oh well, I finished it's only 6 hours long. Well, it's not. It's like the game isn't. The game is as long as you make it. If you want to rush to the end, not completing anything and only fighting the bosses, then yes, it might take you 6 hours if you're on easy. But if you're actually playing the game as intended and searching and upgrading and getting all the add-ons and upgrading your health and upgrading your equipment, there's
Finding all them like
no
hidden
chance.
gears and stuff.
Yeah, there's absolutely no chance you're finishing that game in anything less than 8.5 hours. Not a chance. Not if you're going around and actually doing what the game intends you to do, which is upgrade your equipment, buy new attacks, buy special attacks, upgrade your character, like your special character's attacks, upgrade 808, get a fucking health expanded. Like, all that stuff takes time. There's absolutely no way you'd get through it. But another reason why you wouldn't want to rush through it as well is the music that they've used for this game is phenomenal. Like, Nine Inch Nails, Prodigy. Like, what? What?
Yeah.
Like, that Prodigy
crazy.
scene was just it was so well done as well. So and I'm going to put obviously the music won't be on, but I'm going to put that scene on shortly. The scene starts with you, like, trying to break into the Vandalay, like, main office, which is the giant V in the sky I can see in the main trailer. And the scene starts with that. So you've got to, like, unlock a cannon, and then you fight a few enemies and things there. And then you jump into the cannon and get fired across. And as soon as you break through, literally the moment you break through that wall, you hear dun 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 dun, and then, like, Invaders Must Die starts spooling up, and you're like, oh, here we go. And it's like literally getting through like a heist sequence, but with Invaders Must Die kicking in the background, and that goes on for like that entire sequence of Invaders Must Die is like half the level. It's about 15 minutes long. Of just like one stage and getting like going against loads of security guys and then like mid bosses and everything all the way through. It's just phenomenal. And then to top it off, they've got Wolfgang Gartner's version of the Fifth Symphony, and which is also, it's like a bassy version of like that really classic thing to the boss at the end of the level, which is just not in that boss, that wolf boss that you get to. Like I say, I've intentionally cut that out of the video because it's just too good to not experience yourselves. I don't want to spoil that for people. Or the end boss for that matter, because the end boss is super cool as well. He's got multiple forms. The wolf boss has got multiple forms. And the way that fight ends as well with the wolf boss, it just keeps going, and like you can see your character Chai's getting really annoyed by it, because like every time he knocks him down and he gets him down to it, he gets back up again. He's like, every time you do this, it's just pissing us off even more. And Chai's like, for fuck's sake, will you just die already? And you get the next, and then eventually it ends. But you don't expect the way it does end. It's just funny. And it's just so well done. Like I say, I loved the bosses in this. Every one of the bosses had a different personality. None of their fights were the same. Like, from start to finish, they were all entirely different types of fights. So, of course, at the very beginning, you've got the boss fight with a giant robot. Then you've got the big muscle woman. Straight after that, you fight her. Then you've got the green-haired guy, and he's an entirely different thing because he gets you through, like, different, like, weird AR stages that you've got to do, where he's like, haha,
yeah, you've got to, like, exceed his budget.
Yeah. But they're all so different, and all the different areas that you go to. And then you go to this awesome city as well, where and the wife with the show, where she loves being kind of a show person and being on stage and things. But she's having a huge party, and it in that little section where you go to like that mansion for a party and things, reminds me of the section where you go to the fairground in Nier Automata, with all the music and fireworks and things kicking off, and they're all dancing around in the streets. That entire level felt a bit like that, because there's like fireworks booting off in the background, and everyone's in the streets having a good like festival vibes and stuff. Then you get into the mansion, and even when you're in the mansion, this is how well the level's done. Even when you're in the mansion, you would think, oh, that's a separate level, but the entirety of the outside is still completely rendered, so you can look through any window and you can see the fireworks still kicking off in the background, and you can see like everybody down below and things like that. And I was like, so they've still got the entirety of that level still rendered. The fireworks are still kicking off. You can still hear them. It's so well done. And again, that's a whole different thing because you've got like a weird dance move, like Guitar Hero segment on stage with that boss, where she's doing her little dance moves and things with a robot army behind her, and then you've got to do your guitar solo instead in like retaliation, and then you fight her. So there's like like each boss has like multiple stages. You do like a little thing in between, and then you have this little fight here and this little another fight here. It's so like I can't speak highly enough of it because it not only is it caught us by surprise, but it's so polished. Like not a singular bug, not a singular performance issue.
Yes, yeah, I've heard that.
One thing about the game has a flaw. The music's on point, the acting's on point, the art is on point, the gameplay is on point. It's just there's no performance issues. Like I have absolutely no idea how, outside of Jeff Grubb, who knew the name of the game called Hi-Fi Rush, nobody had ever seen it before. Outside of that, nobody knew about this game, and the fact that they've managed to keep this game under wraps and literally zero leaks from a visuals perspective or gameplay perspective or anything is just phenomenal. I have absolutely no idea how they've kept this game secret. Not a clue.
It's crazy.
It was.
Such a
It
surprise.
had a working title, and I can't remember what the working title for the game was, but apparently it is on the Steam shop, because it's the Steam shop links sort of like all previous media relating to the game in question through that site. So apparently it had a working title a couple of years ago, and as you say, Jeff Grubb dropped the name, but like, I mean, what's a name?
Yep.
Could have been anything. But yeah, completely blown away in a good way in how polished the whole thing was, and it is a textbook example of how to shadow drop a game. If you shadow drop a buggy mess of a game that no one's really bothered about, then people are just going to be poking fun at you for the rest of the year. But I think they came out the strongest they could have. They did a really tight show, really punchy show, and then they dropped a game that everyone is raving about. Like some people are even talking about, game of the year and stuff as well.
It's certainly already in that category for me, I can tell you. It's
yeah, well, I can tell.
Here.
The reason I can say it so
Definitely
early.
a contender.
The reason I can say it so, and this is why I don't understand why people laugh at this, but the reason you can say it so early, and I'm not saying about anybody else's game of the year, and this is what some other people don't realise, when people say game of the year, they're speaking from a personal point of view. They're thinking, I don't know,
of course,
like, what else comes out this year that is going to get close to the level of satisfaction I got from this game. And that's what you've got to think when it comes to game of the year, is how satisfied we are with the game as a whole. And the entire thing was, like I mentioned it when I put a Twitter post out when I finished. It's an easy 10 out of 10 for me. There is not one thing that game does, not a singular thing the game does wrong. Like I've mentioned, the acting is flawless from start to finish. It's funny, doesn't take itself seriously. The musical sections mixed in with the levels are actually absolutely on point, and it helps tell a story. Like the invaders must die thing happens to be when you're going into an office as an invader. Like it is literally in sync with what the story is doing, with the story beat. And every time you do something like that, there's a reason behind it. So it's absolutely a contender for my game of the year, because I can't foresee, like, even I'm super hyped for Starfield, don't get us wrong. I'm actually looking forward to Spider-Man whenever that releases, because I've had fun with the last one. I'm looking forward to Redfall when that comes out, but for sheer fun factor, how the game has looked and performed and sounded and everything that's going in there, there's not going to be many games this year, if any, that come close to the satisfaction, I think, of what I got in that 10 hours that I've played so far on this game. It's just phenomenal.
It's that, and the surprise factor of it just coming out like that was just it just blew minds. I get very nostalgic vibes from this game, and it also feels like a breath of fresh air as well to play. I can't tell you the last time I played a game like this and felt like I played something new at the same time.
Absolutely. And this is what I told Pat as well, because Pat hadn't played it, and this morning Pat was like, "All right, well, it looks cool. I'll try and I'll have to download it." And I was like, "No, you definitely need to download it." So he downloaded it immediately, and he straight away he was like, "I absolutely love it." It was like, it's so good, and the world like moves with the music, and like everything's like. And I was like, it's just like what there's not, and the well, you know you've done well when the result, every part of Twitter, no matter who you're looking at, everyone has the same opinion. Phenomenal game, love the game, love it, brilliant, having so much fun, and everyone is just having fun with the game, like the way it's meant to be. Like Jesus.
Well, there are a particular group of people out there that don't like us having fun with the game, though.
No, not loud fun.
There's been some idiots out there with some right dumb takes.
Yeah.
That's the Jim Ryan massive.
Yeah, they're getting shot down pretty quickly by everybody though. By everybody.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to Dave Ramos there with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Dave. He says a great game is a great game. Hi-Fi Rush feels great. It does. Absolutely. And I can't wait for Fanto to get into it more as well, and Jen for you to get that. When you get to that sequence,
I'm going to complete that tonight. I'm completing that tonight.
When you finish doing that sequence and you've got past the Invaders Must Die section and the Wolfgang Gartner section, you've got to let us know what your thoughts are on that, because that
I'll put it in the group DM immediately after I've done it.
So I was so hyped. As soon as I heard it kicking in, I was like, "Oh shit, here we go!" I've been waiting for this moment. In the end, it didn't disappoint. Not one part of that level disappointed. And there's even a section in that level actually with the Evil Within characters. After you've had a fight, you come crashing down into the floor, and they stand at the bottom immediately, and they're just like, "Yep, another mess to clean up." For fuck's sake.
I do have a couple of pet peeves with the game, though. One is the QTEs. I'm not a big fan of QTEs, but that's a me problem.
Yeah.
And the other is I can't stop pressing my damn screenshot button.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what it is? The thing is every boss has this moment where he goes, "Rah!" And then they've got this cool
and it's like, I've got a screenshot there. That'll be a cool background.
Like I'm like, that's a background, and that's a background, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's just so good. Like this section right here, actually, that's just coming up on the screen with the final boss. That's one of them. The first boss with a robot, and you get this, and every one of them has one of them. Every boss has a moment where you might have 2 or 3 versions.
It's a
of
wallpaper moment.
It's so good.
It's so cool. Like I absolutely love the boss battle designs in this. Every single boss battle feels fresh and different from one another. Like the guy with the green hair, I'm blanking on the name of him, but the way you have to like defund his budget to the point where he's spending so much that they defund him, his company defunds him.
Yeah.
And then there's the fight with Corsica, which isn't really a fight. You're more on the defense.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to sort of turn her to your calls, and at that point you've got to just dodge and block her moves, and just increasingly piss her off so she's attacking you and wearing herself out.
Did you catch her? No, it's not just me then. I missed it as well. I was like, oh shit, and then she just lands on the floor.
I didn't think it was going to happen, and it like popped up on screen, and I was like, oh shit, I was supposed to press that, and she lands on the floor.
Oh god!
The funniest part in that scene as well is like he's hitting her head through every doorway, and then you've got the widest door, and he goes to take a slow step through it, and the door closes and hits her on the head. That's funny.
God, and Holmesy said
the humor is perfect in this game.
Yeah, he's Zanzo, the green-haired guy. He's fighting that now. But honestly, Fanto, I can't wait for you to jump into it properly, and you're gonna love it. Honestly, it's especially for like anyone who loved like the from Dreamcast onwards proper like 90s games and think it's so.
Oh yeah, man.
Nostalgic.
I mean, I've been playing video games since the Spectrum ZX 48K in 1987. But yeah, I mean, from what you've said about the artists and stuff, I've played literally the first section, so like just the tutorial really, but I've been so like sort of like shoulders deep in The Witcher, I find it really difficult to pull myself out of that game to play something else. And I started playing Hi-Fi Rush, and I was like, if I start playing this now, I'm not gonna end up going back to The Witcher and the stuff I want to do in that. So yeah, that's just me being like the way my head works. Have to
I fully
stick with The Witcher
understand that,
for now.
especially with open world games. If I get distracted and I'm knee deep in another game, I forget about the open world game, and then I never go back to the open world game for a long period of time.
And that's and I already did that with Witcher 3 years ago, and I was like, this game is too good for me to do that with again. So yeah, I think it's definitely the next game up there. Once I've done the main quest line on Blood and Wine, then I'm jumping into Hi-Fi Rush, and that's going to be the next full playthrough. And it's much easier. It's going to be much easier for me to do because it's a shorter game. And I usually go for these massive behemoth titles because it's just the sort of game that I like. But then every so often, one of these short and sweet games comes along that really enjoy. So it's been really pleasant to see a game like this come along just completely out of the blue, and for it to be welcomed by the community so positively. Like anyone who I pay any attention to, or hold in any regard, have all been singing its praises. Back from like sort of the origins of how the game started, and the people working behind the scenes on it, and everything about it is just exuded quality. So yeah, no, I can totally get why you're totally pumped to have played the game, and for it to be in your game of the year already. We're in January still, and we're talking about game of the year. I mean, it's a high accolade for a game to have.
Like,
without doubt.
Like, literally, and this is coming off the back of my last game of the year, God of War, and each of them are so very different to each other, but they both really just knocked it out. Both of them knocked it out the park, in my opinion. And this one's absolutely no different, but it's like you mentioned, it's a shorter experience. And the best thing about this shorter experience is, even though it's 9 hours long to complete it first round, there is by the time you finish it, you're like, no, I actually want to keep playing it. Like, it's one of them games where you're just like, no, I want to keep playing it, and they give you a reason to, because there's so much post-game content there. So it's not like
there's kind of replayability there after you beat the game.
Jen, you'll be happy. So many purple costume stuff to unlock. So much purple. Loads of purple. If you haven't seen
I'll be wearing that straight away.
with the stuff on screen there, my 808's got a mohawk and sunglasses on now. But no, it's absolutely awesome. It's so much cool stuff. And this is that final like sequence I was telling you about when you go in, do that section. I'll have to show you kind of properly afterwards when it's with the music on, so you can kind of understand that. But no, it's just, listen, it's as you mentioned, Fanto, it's because it came out the blue and it took everybody by surprise. I think adds to that as well. It's like, I still cannot believe that they managed to keep this thing hidden and out of the public eye for so long. Like, I have absolutely no idea. And I think it's also correct in thinking, at the same time, would everybody have had the same hype play, or would have everybody given it a chance had it have been announced earlier and people knew its release date? I think a lot of people would have just left it for a bit than actually play it. I think the fact that Shadow dropped actually helped the game, because more people went, holy shit, I can play that now? Like, okay, let's get on it. So everybody downloaded it. There wasn't a single person that didn't go, I'm not downloading that game tonight. Everybody that watched that show had downloaded that game immediately.
If we'd, for instance, seen this game at the Game Awards, they would have probably gone through various sort of emotions regarding it, like, oh, that looks interesting, or yeah, I'm definitely going to play that. And then there's so much happens between the Game Awards and now that it gets forgotten about, or you just think, well, it's a rhythm game, it's not really my sort of thing. And it's one of those things where, and as well, not being a physical release, being a digital only, it wasn't out there from a marketing perspective. They weren't trying to shift units. It was just a Game Pass release. I mean, obviously you can still buy it digitally, but let's face it, everyone's going to play it on Game Pass first. The amount of subscribers Game Pass has.
It's one of them games I am absolutely going to buy. I love it.
And I can totally appreciate that.
Even the retail price for it it's like more than reasonable. 30 quid.
Yeah.
That's a bargain for what you're getting with this game. That's a bloody bargain.
I mean, I know it's on a much smaller scale, but I was like that with Vampire Survivor. I was like, I've had such a good time with this game. How can I not spend £3.50 on it? So, I bought that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm exactly the same as you. If I enjoy a game that much and it is on Game Pass, then I want to own it either digitally or physically, depending on, how it's released. Sometimes both, because I'm just crazy like that. I like to have physical media. It's just a throwback of being a child of the 80s and the 90s.
Is this going to have a physical
old
release?
Games?
No. It's Is it probably a good chance that limited run games will do?
I wondered if that might be the case. Yeah,
but I very much doubt it'll ever come out as an actual physical release, because and this is what people don't understand. As much as this is by Tango Gameworks, this is very much an indie game. This isn't a AAA thing. This is a section of about 30 or 40 developers at Tango creating this game. This isn't a big mammoth AAA studio. Like, Tango are actually still working on their big next game. This is just a side project.
So we can refer to it as
seeing
like
how popular this is.
Yeah, it's a AAA game.
Seeing how popular this is, I wouldn't be surprised if the sequel is a AAA budget.
The best thing about this game as well is that it's because you've got the characters now as well. And yes, this one's about kind of bringing down the evil Vandalay and things like that. And actually, there's a few story arcs at the end as well that I didn't see coming, that you might not see coming as well, Jem, when you play it. There's a few little story arcs which are cool, but the world in itself, which is just essentially centered around robots and people with mechanical arms and things like that. And I think another good thing about kind of seeing that on that front is those who have like amputees and things like that, who have like disabilities, who have had like fake arms and things and legs and limbs and things put on, they're going to see this game and go, look how cool that looks. Like, the main character is an amputee. He's got a robot arm. You know what I mean? Like, he's so cool. And then the second lead character, the girl, she's an amputee and she's got a leg. And another guy's got like 2 arms, and then the other one's got like something else entirely. And it's like, again, inclusivity from a different angle, which people might not have kind of thought of in that front. So there's going to be those lot as well, where, especially for people who are doing like, you've got to think things like dressing up for Comic-Con and things like that. Like, all these people will be able to create awesome like things for the prosthetics, which they can wear to look like Chai or stuff like that. And they're going to feel like they fit in. It's absolutely awesome. But the world, you can go anywhere with this world and have it. It's just a case of what story do you want to tell now with these guys. And that when you come to the end of the game, you've got a rabble group of robot, big hulking dude, 2 women, one that used to work. Well, both of them used to work for Vandal Day, and then yourself. You've got a big group, and then 808, of course. So who can forget 808? It's just that you can do anything.
For me, it's screaming out for a publisher like Vertigo or something to come along and do like a mini series, like comic. It would just
it could be
absolutely brilliant.
Some of the artwork was done by a Japanese comic illustrator, so they could be something like that in the works. You just never know.
Yeah, and like when you were saying Dutch about limited run, that was what popped into my mind in the first instance. And just think of what the collector's edition would look like.
It would just be 808 with LEDs.
Yeah, totally. But it could maybe be like a magnetized one, so it like hovers off the ground and stuff. Oh, that would be awesome.
I hope there is a limited run games release of this, because that's something I would grab and get done by a Framer game immediately.
To be fair, I think what you could do, because it wouldn't frame the game, what you could do, and I've seen people create them before, is you can still create kind of a fake cover for an Xbox Series X game with the game front and back. Put that into a sleeve, into like a game sleeve, and then put that in. So essentially, you've still got the game case and things to display it as a favorite thing. You can do that, but I also agree though. I think a lot of people want a physical version of it as well. And hats off to them. They might, like I say, hopefully limited run do create that and get that out in the public. But Holmesy likes the idea there of 808 with LEDs in. Absolutely. Yeah, it wouldn't be hard either. It's literally a ball with some cat ears. Literally a ball with cat ears, and then you've got the cutout sections that'll be a little bit see-through and an LED in the middle of it. There you go.
Totally.
It would be cool as well if you could.
It could even
get
be
it to talk, say some lines from the game.
I was going to say it could be like a Bluetooth speaker or something, and
that
you
would
could
be
just
awesome.
link it up to an app or something and get it to interact with stuff. That would be awesome.
It's just I mean, like I say, hats off, and even the mini bosses are cool. Like the guy I'm fighting on screen now is like a chef robot type thing. Mad. And just keeps going, and all of them, like all the different characters you fight, and there's all different types of characters. Some of them have got flame things, some have got different types of shields you need to break down. They've all got different attacks, ranged attacks, close range attacks. So you've got to think about kind of how to attack them and everything. And it's just so fun to play. I can't stop raving about it, and I think if I don't move on to the next stuff, I'll probably end up raving about it for much longer as well.
It's worthy of it though. It definitely deserves the hype it's getting right now.
It deserves
and like Fanto said, and you said, if this game was something they announced and it didn't come out for months on end, it'd get buried in all the hype of other games. And the good thing is it don't get buried because it was surprise dropped, and because of that, it's built so much hype up around it. And if there is a sequel, eyes are going to be on that sequel, and that's going to be something people are looking out for.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And you know where it is? It's hats off to the team. I am absolutely over the moon for John Johannes. His vision, again, shows, and this is, it was in development before this, so hats off to the team at Tango, hats off to Bethesda for allowing them to do this, because this is actually in the works from 2017. Hats off to them for allowing John to go to them and say, I've got this vision. This is what I want to do. Like, can we do it? And they went, go for it. And that's the kind of thing that I love, and the one kind of thing that I'm really looking forward to seeing more of from Xbox, because we've seen that recently with them, with the likes of Grounded, with the likes of Pentiment, etc. And now, of course, with this from Bethesda and Tango Gameworks, seeing Tango getting the opportunity to create what is essentially a dream game that they wanted to design, and look how well it's been received. Every one of those games, Grounded, Pentiment, and this, every one of these dream games that these developers have wanted to make has absolutely knocked it out of the park, and every one of them is for a different audience. They're all super, like, all niche. Like, this is a rhythm-based action game. I would personally say the vast majority of people will thoroughly enjoy this game because it's not as bad as, and by bad I mean, it's not as Metal Hellsinger as a rhythm-based.
Yeah.
Metal Hellsinger is, if you don't hit us on the attack, it's not going to work. This one, it's just attack. It'll automatically kind of get next to the beat anyway, so you're okay there. The only time you need to be on par is in them QTE moments where you've got to hit it. in the right moment.
But they're the parts that I found a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at QTAs.
So other than those QTE moments, like I say, they're the only times really you need to be on beat match. The only times. The rest of the time, the game is pretty straightforward and open to all. So I would possibly say that most people would enjoy this game if they give it a chance.
I will say, if you are someone that struggles with the quick time events like me, there is an actual option you can go to switch the quick time event buttons to the exact same button, so you don't have to be waiting to press Y or B and all that and messing yourself up there. So it does make those quick time events a little bit easier. And if you struggle like me, I would recommend turning that on.
I did notice that.
And
it's in the options menu.
It don't change the timing, but it just makes it easier for you not to have to worry about remembering the button press pattern, which can be a bit of a struggle if you're someone like me that finds it hard to pay attention to quick time events.
It's also got a streamer mode as well, hasn't it? So it can play like non-copyrighted music for anyone who wants to live stream games on YouTube and Twitch. So they've thought of pretty much everything.
Yeah, the one thing I will say as well there is I wanted to, because I was going to stream it and I thought because I want to experience what it's like with the with the real soundtracks in first, with Invaders Must Die and things in. Like I couldn't imagine streaming that and then not really getting to experience it. So I thought, no, I'm going to do that first, and then on post game, I'll happily do another playthrough with me fancy new costume and things, playing through the game again with the streamer mode on, and see what the difference is. I wonder what this actually. I do know, because they've got the streamer friendly mode that I've unlocked in the jukebox, which is also equally quite cool. They've got it sounds a little bit like Invaders Must Die, like composed by Bethesda, but it's not. There's a little bit of it kind of sounds the same. It's got the same kind of premise about the song, and I was like, okay, this is super close to what it would be, so I can understand, but it isn't quite. So hats off for doing that. But no, they've literally thought of everything. They've got, again, there's a few sections on there. I know it's Sightless Combat mentioned he would love to actually be able to play the game properly. Of course, for those with limited or low sight, it's going to be quite difficult. There's not really much around it. But they have got quite a few other bits of accessibility in there. They've got, of course, the loads of text font. They've got the backdrops on there, the colour blindness on there. They've got the amount of localization they've got in this game is phenomenal, by the way. Every outside of cutscenes, every different language that they've got in the game have all got separate lip synchronization for the characters in the game.
Oh, I love that.
That's good.
And every one of them has been dubbed in every language they've got in the game as well, by different voice actors from different areas. So they've all been covered perfectly. They've all got their own subtitles that have been translated correctly for every level. We're talking Korean, Chinese, Portuguese, Brazilian, all the way through. They've literally, every one of them has different lip sync, different subtitles, different artwork.
That's good. That's really good, because there's nothing worse than a badly dubbed game or a badly dubbed TV show, and you're just sitting there and you get kind of like thrown out of being engrossed into the world that you're trying to experience. Yeah, and like that whole not being dubbed or done properly is something that throws me off.
Yeah, and it's really like a lot of the Japanese guys are absolutely loving this as well. They're like, this looks super interesting, and like, and then you see them all underneath just saying like, I absolutely love it. Like, it's such a fun game. So it's doing well. It's doing super well, and they deserve all the plaudits. Hats off to them.
I think Tango Games are going to do much bigger things in the coming years.
And you know where it is? I think
we're going to be surprised by them.
Oh, absolutely. One thing you've seen as well, one thing I've seen specifically, is like literally every news outlet is Chai or 808 like the new face of like one of the new big faces of Xbox?
New mascot,
like, I would
definitely got potential to be a big mascot for Xbox.
Oh, absolutely. Like, Chai's such a cool kind of likable character, and 808's a perfect sidekick. Like, how can you how can you not enjoy both of them? Like, they're so well, and like there's little moments in there as well. Like when you're in between battles, when 808 will start playing with Chai's scarf and things, like in the middle of a battle, and so they're trying to catch the scarf. And
Or
like, come on,
he plays the air guitar.
yeah. Oh god, like I'm just gushing over the game because it's just that enjoyable. So hats off, absolutely hats off to them. It's I'm so glad they brought this out and brought this to life, and I'm also I'm more so glad that it is more accessible to people who liked the look of the likes of Hellsinger but couldn't get into it because it was very beat matchy, like very beat matchy.
Yeah.
This one's so much more accessible for the general public to play. So, yeah, hats off to them. Absolutely hats off to them. It makes me wonder what else they've got cooking now, though. If this is the kind of things they've got hidden behind closed doors, like this kind of stuff, and we know some teams have got multiple projects, and by multiple, we know that means now they've got little projects like this, as well as big projects. And if any of them are anywhere near the quality of this one, holy shit. Like,
Yeah, and Xbox has been
it
quiet.
won't be much longer before we get Ghostwire Tokyo on Xbox as well, because that game came out March last year. So
yes,
I'm expecting
they
maybe
can't say it
soon.
April
but
that'll come out for us.
Yeah, they can't say it, I don't think, but as soon as the year's up, they can put it on Xbox.
And that's one I kept meaning to play on PC, because it did come to PC the same time it came to PlayStation 5, but I just never got around to getting it. And as soon as that hits Game Pass, I'm going to be all over that, because I was very interested in like the way that game looked. It kind of felt like a little like Doctor Strange, with the way the character done all the spell casting stuff. So I'm excited to play that when it eventually hits Game Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out as well.
Definitely. And shout out to everybody in chat, including the likes of Holmesy and stuff, Sean, who are literally playing it as we speak. And both of them are into Zanzo right now. Both of them are into Zanzo right now.
That's dedication. Playing Hi-Fi Rush while listening to a podcast talking about Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
I have got a question for the both of you, though. Do you think that going forward, I don't expect this every Xbox developer conference or every time they do a show or whatever. Do you think this is a smart move, them shadow dropping games like this in the future?
I think this type of game is perfect for shadow dropping. Absolutely perfect.
Like a new sort of style game.
We both spoke about this before. I don't think this game would have got the same attention had it not been shadow dropped. I think if this had been advertised beforehand and given a proper marketing run, it wouldn't have done as well as it has now, because it would have just been put up on someone's mind, and we'll just get to it eventually.
Yeah,
big games are successful that way. I think indie games and small games are very successful in being shadow dropped. And I think the closest we come to that in recent years was the Sea of Thieves Pirates Life expansion, where they went, and you can play that game next week when it comes out on such and such, and we were like, holy shit, that's close. That was the closest we've got to a proper shadow drop in years. I think the last big shadow drop in the market was Apex Legends.
Yeah. I don't think shadow dropping AAA games is the way forward.
No. They need, due to their budget, they need a marketing campaign.
Yeah, exactly. But as Jen just said as well, you know, who knows how many of these mini projects are on, you know, going on, bubbling away in the background. And we haven't, I think, you know, I've been saying this for a long time now. All of last year was very much heavily focused on Game Pass as a service and providing that service to as many people as possible. And you could just argue to possibly the detriment of the Xbox brand as a first-party game developer. You know, a lot of people were bashing it and stuff. Having said that, if this is what they've been doing with that time, then more power to them, because they've been playing the long game from everything that I've been seeing. You know, that if they can release a game like this, the only thing I would say is, because it's just the nature of the beast, people will now have an expectation moving forwards. When you start off with an event, and the first time you have an event, and it is this popular, it goes down this well, and has such a positive community response, and you release a game no one knew about, and then that game is really popular and really good, and is bug free and everything like that. They've set their own bar really high to come in with the next one. So I imagine there's probably a few people in the in the department that was involved in actually producing this direct who are like, right, so how do we top what we just did, boys? Because it was, for me, that good. How do you top it, or at least meet this direct to the same level of expectation? Because there will be expectation now with the next one. People will be like, oh, so what's going to come out on the next one?
I think
so.
Yeah, I think for the next one they need to go in setting the same expectations, because the best thing that they did about this show is they knew they were including this game, but they didn't tell anybody that they were including this game. They said, you're going to see these 4 games, do not expect anything else. And they reiterated that point countlessly on the weeks leading up.
Yes.
There is nothing but these 4 games. Do not expect anything. And I think if we'd went into that expecting surprises, then we didn't. But I think if they continue to do the same thing and say, listen, we're only showing 3 games, we're only showing 2 games, we're only showing 4 games, whatever it is, if you're going saying these are all we're showing, and it only shows that amount, you can't. There is literally no way you can be let down, because they told you beforehand, this is it.
Yeah.
This is all we're showing. If there's anything else, then great, that's a surprise. But by all accounts, up until recently, I don't believe this was going to be part of it anyway. And by that I mean like probably about 2 months ago, it was Tango Gameworks and John Johannes. It was their idea to shadow drop the game. They went to Phil Spencer and said, listen, it would be cool if we could just shadow drop this. And they were like, would you want to? Like, yeah, well, let's do it. We're like, okay, let's go for it. So it was a case of them being so confident in their game that they wanted to do it. So Xbox went, okay, fair enough. I think they had for all intents and purposes, they had all intentions of just doing 4 games at that conference. And then Tango went, oh, we've got this game ready. It's cooked. We're good to go. So, okay, fair enough. And looking at the timeline as well, like the vast majority of my timeline anyway, specifically, the only games on there at the moment are mainly Hi-Fi Rush, and runner-up is Dead Space. And I would completely think that would be the opposite, but it isn't. Dead Space is there, but not quite. Hi-Fi Rush is all over the place. All over the
I think a lot of people were in the same boat as us with Dead Space, in the fact that we've played it before. We know what to expect with that game. We're in no rush to actually play that game.
Yeah.
When it goes on sale, most people are probably going to pick it up, or most people have probably already picked it up, and they'll just get around to it when they get around to it.
Definitely.
And it's just the fact, it's just the amount of, like, it's fun, because the entire timeline isn't just, oh, I'm playing this game, it's fun. The entire timeline is someone's screenshot button who's clearly been broken, because everyone's posting like 4, 5, 6 screenshots constantly from the game, just going, this game is just so good.
I was hitting that screenshot button so often. I'm surprised it didn't come off my controller.
Oh, but it's great. And to be honest, if in future one of their smaller projects is ready and they want to drop it, I think Xbox won't have a problem with that. I think, again, things like I think even things like Pentiment might have been better doing something like that. It's the game that people were like, what's this? Oh, it's dropping now. I'll try that. Instead of advertising it beforehand, and then people had a chance to go, nah.
See, if they take a little bit more of the Netflix approach, because Netflix do this quite often. They don't often announce movies or TV shows unless it's a big sort of blockbustery type movie that they want to advertise. They don't typically announce their movies until like a couple weeks or a week before that some of the movies drop. And that is usually a good thing for Netflix to do. Yeah, they've had some bad things come out, and they've had some things that were not so bad, but then they've had some things that were great. Xbox was smart. They would take a similar approach to that, where if they've got a game ready and it's a smaller game like this, they could come out and go, oh, we've got a game coming out next week. Here's a trailer for it. Or we've got a game coming out later today. Here's a trailer for it, like they did with this. I think it's the smartest thing for Xbox to do. Now, with the bigger IPs, like the Halos, the Gears, the big Bethesda titles like Starfield, the ones that you expect to be announced and then like this long-winded full reveal, they'll keep doing that with. But for these smaller, new sort of potential big IPs that could happen, they should do more of this surprise drop, whether that could be a week or two from announcement or the day of announcement. It's something they should push for a bit more in the industry. And you could see them doing it because they're getting more and more studios under their belts. When this Activision thing goes through, they're going to have more and more studios under their belts. So it's going to become harder at some point for them to put games out because there's going to be so many people under their teams making games. So a surprise drop should be expected every now and then.
Isn't it interesting?
Not frequent, like something that it's going to be every month, but maybe just like once or twice a year they'll go, oh, we've got this coming out.
But I was going to say, isn't it interesting that we're in a world now where this is like a viable way to release a game? Can you imagine like a couple of decades ago where, you know, they would just release a game, there was no marketing, there was no advertising, there was no posters on the sides of buses or, you know, TV adverts or internet adverts or anything. It was just literally that there it is, you know, and because of the you know, everything is immediate now on Facebook, it's on Instagram. It's just so strange that and ironic that the game is more popular because it wasn't advertised before it was released. And it's had a bigger impact because no one knew about it rather than it having a massive build-up, which is what, you know, I grew up experience. Everything was build up. You know, that was the whole point, isn't it? You market something to build it up and create hype. Whereas now hype can create itself merely by something just existing all of a sudden. So it's fascinating. Yeah.
And it's not only that, it's the fact that this game's managed to come out and be in the top, essentially the top 5 sellers on Steam, out over Forspoken, and just underneath Hogwarts Legacy. And it didn't even get any advertisement. It just came out. Okay, it's on Steam now, and it's on Xbox Game Pass and Xbox now. Go have fun. And immediately,
and it's doing numbers. I think in the Steam charts, it's like 8th place in the top 10.
Yeah, and 5 of those are all Dead Space, all different versions of Dead Space. So it's actually like, I think it's like something like top 5 in the actual sellers if you go on by game basis, which is nuts.
Crazy, man.
It's nuts. It had literally zero marketing. It had a singular gameplay trailer, and that was at Developer Direct.
I think when people say that Xbox is the Netflix of gaming, and I'm not sure if I've actually said that Game Pass is the Netflix of gaming. I'm not sure if Xbox have actually said that themselves, but if they did, this is probably what they meant with something like a shadow drop.
Yeah, of this quality as well. Like and that's what I was saying about the smaller projects. Like, if they've got a whole host of teams, and this is another good for them, a good case to go to other indie studios or even their own, like an incentive for all of the creative minds that they've got working at these studios to go, I've always wanted to pitch this game, but I didn't know whether or not it would get traction. And then you have a look at Pentiment, you have a look at Grounded, you have a look at Hi-Fi Rush, and you think Xbox is gonna, like, there's a good chance if my game pitch to my director is good enough, there's a good chance I'm gonna get Xbox's go ahead on it. And that's so exciting for developers there as well, and like artists and things like that, these studios, to go and say, look at the chance that these teams have been with pitching their games, have been given and actually getting these games up and running. And then
Mm-hmm.
to see the kind of attraction that all of these games got. Like Pentiment wasn't everybody's game, but for those who enjoyed it, they thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's again rated in like the high 80s, 90s, which is just insane for a game like that. And same for this. This one's like 88, 91 or something like that on OpenCritic, which is just insane. And like 9.3 on thousands of user reviews, like overwhelmingly positive on Steam. There's not literally a bad word about it from the legitimate sources. There's not a bad word about it. So it's a huge case for Xbox to incentivize developers working for any of their studios. Like, look at this game, look at this game, look at this game. These are all from people inside of these studios who had an idea, pitched it to their director. Their directors went, okay, we'll set up a meeting with Phil and all those and pitch it to them, and we'll see how it goes. And then they've had the chance to make it. That is just a phenomenal story for me. I love seeing that, and it's like I say, they're the kind of projects that I know Xbox have at least 5 or 6 of in development. These littler projects from these teams, parts of teams within these studios, that they've got coming up in the future. And I can't, if they're of the same quality of this, we're going to be in for a treat.
It's what I like to see, though, because any one of these little projects has the potential to become a massive IP if it does well. And this game I can see being a huge IP going forward.
And it's, the best thing about it is, though, it's come from a very unlikely source. Like when they purchased Bethesda ZeniMax, did anybody mention Tango Gameworks really? Did anybody?
No, don't think many people were all that hyped for Tango.
Yeah.
No.
We knew they created the
Only
Evil
for
Within.
the Evil Within.
We said we want to see a new Evil Within, but beyond that, everyone was like id Tech, ZeniMax, Bethesda Game Studios. Like they're the ones we're looking at. Like
they were
Machine
perceived
Games.
to be like a one-trick pony, weren't they? Really?
Yeah.
It's definitely something I would never have expected Tango to do,
and
considering
it's
their
also,
focus has been horror games with Evil Within 1 and 2, and Ghostwire Tokyo is sort of horror themed as well. So
it's also their only Japanese studio.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They're only and not only that, they're really trying to break into that Japanese market, and they've now created an absolutely amazing animated IP with full Japanese dub and Japanese voiceovers and everything. Like, if you're going to break into the Japanese market, that is the game you're breaking into the Japanese market for. You've seen how big Persona is. That's an animated game. You've seen, you know what I mean? Like, the biggest games in Japan are all animated. They're not these ultra high realistic games. They don't really care about them. It's your Lost Judgment. It's your
Tales of games.
Yeah. It's all of these animated type style games, and this is it. This is their bridge into that market. Personally, I think this is the big IP that they need to attack Japan with.
Yeah, I think the best, like, a lot of people keep asking Microsoft to invest in buying Japanese studios. I don't think they need to. Invest your money into Tango. Let them expand. Let them have different teams working on different projects. Just give Tango some more money. We don't need them to go and buy or attempt to buy a Sega or a Capcom or anything like that. You don't need to do that. Invest in the studio you have that is already got a foothold in Japan and expand it.
Yep, I agree. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, hats off to Tango. It was phenomenal work. Well done, John Johannes and all your team. I hope to God this isn't the last we see of 808 and Chai, but you know what it is? I don't think it is.
Not with
I just don't
not
think
with how popular, and it's been trending for days on Twitter.
It's been trending since release.
This franchise isn't one of those franchises that come and go quick. This is going to be a big staple for Xbox. I can see it now. In a few years' time, you'll probably have an announcement that Chai is returning with the full cast of characters. and they're probably going to bring new characters into the fold and new threats, and it could be a big franchise going forward for Xbox if they play their cards right.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like, I can't see what happens. For those who haven't finished the game, I'm not going to dive into the ending and things like that. But the ending leaves it very much open to expanding that as well. There's no guarantees that it isn't ended in this universe, if that makes sense. They could very well make a fight back, put it that way. But there's so much they can do with it, and I think they'll be unbelievably happy. I think it'll have, not only from a consumer perspective, but I think from a financial perspective, I think this is going to exceed expectations dramatically. It's, to put it that way, and you might have seen Benji's post. This game was $30. Forspoken was $70. It is out in terms of monetary value, has outsold a $70 game. Outsold it on revenue.
And I wonder what the budgets were.
And that's a 70, so it's double the price. It's more than double the price, and this one has outsold it in revenue, which means it's also more than double the units sold on this game.
Bloody hell.
Against Square Enix, which is the biggest, essentially one of the biggest Japanese publishers of games.
Yeah. That's crazy for Steam numbers. That shows you word of mouth travels.
And that's just Steam.
Well,
that's not including Game Pass, Game Pass Ultimate, or Game Pass on PC, where a lot of Game Pass users will be playing it.
And as the saying goes, that's not an opinion, that's just counting.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's not an opinion, that is the Steam charts. That is facts and figures. Yeah. That is just, and that is within not even a week. It's not even a week. We're talking from Wednesday till Sunday.
Well, that's the thing. When we were talking then, I was thinking back, I was like, no, it was just this week, wasn't it? It wasn't last week.
9 o'clock on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
9 o'clock on a Wednesday night. It wasn't even
That's insane, man. For a game that come out of nowhere with no advertising, you just don't expect it.
Nope.
No.
And it was up there with like 30,000 people like watching it on Twitch. It didn't shirk the Twitch viewers either. It was doing well on Twitch. It's just phenomenal. So yeah, more of these, please. Xbox and Microsoft, continue to let your very, very talented developers pitch their crazy ideas and come up with these games. Because if any of them are or anything like this, God, we're in for a treat this generation.
Yeah. Let your studios work on their passion projects. That's what I'd say.
Yeah,
because obviously you can see this is their passion project. And
if you take anything away from that, then I would say that just let them do what they want to do, what they do best. They have that space and the breathing room to do that financially because of the Game Pass format, and because of that, like you said, Dutch, we end up with games like this. So a lot of people were very cynical about the whole Game Pass thing when it first started, and what will it mean moving forwards and everything. And obviously it is still early days, but I feel like we are kind of entering a bit of a golden age for developers to be able to be in a position to create art where they're not having to worry about that thin red line of whether or not it makes or breaks the studio, because they're part of a larger corporation or a bigger picture. So more power to them. I would love to see a documentary of how this game was made come out later on this year, whether it would be part of a collector's edition or something that they just dropped as a social media thing, as a social media tool to just sort of like plug the game and promote the game again. I think there's a fascinating story to be had there, and I would quite happily sit and watch a documentary on how this game came about. Definitely. And yes, I will be playing it fully very soon.
Yeah, and you're going to enjoy every minute, and that's the one thing I'm loving about seeing the timeline for a change. There's usually some negative stuff somewhere, but watching everybody on the timeline have played or are playing and loving the game, even people who don't like rhythm-based games have jumped on it give it a chance, and they're having so much fun. They're enjoying the stories and the characters, and like I say, stuffed Sean and Holmesy in the chat. They're absolutely loving the game, talking about defunding Zanzo and things like that. So, yeah, it's great. More of this, please, Xbox. That's I think the final thing I'll say on that. More of this. Let your teams continue to be unbelievably creative. Yeah, hats off. Well done, guys. Well done.
I can't wait to see what Tango Gameworks does next.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'd love to see them tackle a Marvel IP, but it's probably not going to happen. I put a tweet out there saying I'd love to see them tackle a Deadpool game, and I think that would be awesome to see. But I think they should probably stick to what they do best, make the games they want to make.
They've had some characters in the past where they haven't really approached, or hit them out the park like they should do. I've forgotten the name of that one that was in the desert with that woman with the bionic arm, and she had the robot dog.
Recall.
Yes, like that. God, I wish that game was treated properly and given its dues, because that was such a fun game. That was a Metroidvania game that, to me, would deserve another chance. Give it another chance. Do a Recore 2. Give it a little bit more love, a little bit more budget. I think that would do well these days. I think it would very much do well, especially in Game Pass. Like, Recore came out when there wasn't a Game Pass.
Yeah.
You create a Recore 2 with Game Pass in mind. I think that would do well. I think it would do very well. But even a Recore, like if you give a Recore to the likes of Tango, I think the platform and the combat and things they come up with, yeah, phenomenal.
What I would say is don't count any of the IPs that Xbox has out, because we all know the power of Game Pass. To release something like this and it become huge pretty much overnight is crazy.
Well, I think
and they could do that with some of their older IPs that they don't use.
I was going to say, I think, and this is the kind of point I wanted to get to before, was I think this is a perfect pitch internally for Xbox to speak to indie developers and their own studios, even if they do like their own conferences, like year end, where they're doing a big giant company meeting, and they're like pitching their staff, like all the Xbox developers, and saying, listen, like look at these 3 games. All of these are passion projects. These are ideas that you guys, all of our developers, have pitched to the studio heads, and look at it now. Like, these are passion projects that people have wanted to work on, and they've been given the opportunity to do that. So if you guys have a passion project that you've always wanted to work on, come and speak to us. Come and pitch your game, pitch your idea, and if we can, we'll get it done. That's the kind of incentive you need when you see something like this drop, and just seeing how well it is. And that's what excites me most about Game Pass going forward, is if this is the kind of stuff that the sub-teams and indie developers are able to create because of Game Pass and because of the subscription model that allows them to do and try these new things, because it's very little risk-reward factor. So they don't have to worry about the reward angle, because it's all fine, it's all taken care of on that front. There's very little risk, because if it doesn't work, that's fine. We haven't lost anything, because we haven't had it to market it. We haven't had to pitch it. We haven't had to produce it. Like, we'll make it. We'll put it out there. If people play it, and loads of people play it, then happy days. Like, it's a big success. If it doesn't, hey, no sweat. No sweat. We've lost.
You see, it brings me back to that thing Todd Howard said when they did that Xbox Bethesda round table. It was more of like showing off Bethesda and all their talent.
Yeah.
Todd Howard said that Game Pass basically will allow them to do more risky things, and this is proof of that.
And it just goes to show as well, what other, if this is just Tango Gameworks, do IdTech and Machine Games and all of those have all these other random projects in the work? From like small...
I don't know.
I mean, this can't be the only one, can it? So there's definitely others.
How many studios do Xbox own as we speak before 29. The Activision deal goes through? 29. That could be 29 little projects in the works that we don't know about.
28 now, because this one's out.
28.
But no, I completely agree, and I hope the developers at all of these studios look at these games and go, you know what it is, I'm gonna get the courage up, and I'm gonna go and pitch my game. I'm gonna pitch my idea.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
See, this is the type of risk I want Sony to start taking, rather than their play it safe, stealth narrative driven story games like The Last of Us, God of War. As much as that's not stealth, but it has like aspects. They're all very samey, and I love those games. I won't lie, I absolutely love them games. I adore God of War. It's not my game of the year last year because I chose an indie title for that, but absolutely loved it. And I just wish Sony would take a little bit more risk and step up their game and let their studios do some projects they want to do, rather than remake this, do a sequel to that.
Yep.
Yeah, it comes down to leadership and you know, their values on how they want to drive their particular engine. You know, the PlayStation engine, the Xbox engine, the Nintendo Switch engine. I mean, Nintendo's another interesting one where this next generation of console, which, you know, is being talked about more and more, we've got no idea how it's going to be approached, because this will be the first time that the leadership that Nintendo currently has will have released a console. So people are looking to the past in how the Wii was released, or the Wii U, and obviously, you know, mistakes were made with the Wii U's release and everything, and the success of the Switch, and like, oh well, you know, Nintendo did this, and people say Nintendo. It's like, yes, but Nintendo are a different Nintendo now to how they used to be. So it's very difficult to second guess what companies are going to do. In a similar way, like, I could never have foreseen Game Pass be a vessel for creativity. Like, you know, whether that's just a cynical Englishman in me or what, in that, you know, you look at, oh, it's another subscription service, I'm sick of that, how many things do I have to pay for every month, sort of thing. But it's opened up so many artistic avenues for people that it you know, primarily seen by me now as a positive. You know, I can afford to play the games, multiple games every year, because of this subscription service, and we have more of them. I mean, you're saying there was 29 studios, say 28 now because this game's come out. Even if you then conservatively halve those studios, that's over a dozen titles that we have no information, no knowledge of at all, which could be interspersed, which we're expecting, like, you know, the next Gears 6, and you know, Starfield and Forza and all of the other big Xbox titles that are going to be coming out. So as much as, you know, us and lots of other people have complained that Xbox have been quiet for so long, maybe they have been, you know, squirreling away in the quiet, like getting all of these, and you know, they're not all going to be immense successes. Like, there is going to be hits and there's going to be misses, but that's what happens, because passion projects, that's exactly what they are, and they're created by people because they love them, and that's what they wanted to create, and some will resonate more with others and some won't. But yeah, to be in a position where they can do that, I think it's quite an exciting time for, you know, to be involved in games and to be a gamer. And the fact that everything now is instantly accessible, you know, via downloads and everything as well. It's just,
and cloud gaming.
Yeah, which is only going to get better as our internet connections improve. You know, once we can all get good internet like you, Jen, then we'll have a much better cloud experience, because mine's shocking at the minute. I think I can max out at about 64 megabits download. So I'm patiently waiting for my gigabit.
It's a good job this game's only 15 gig then, eh?
Yes. Well, I've downloaded Red Dead Redemption while we've had had this discussion. So, and that was like 8 gig. So yeah.
But yeah, so
But then I remember.
Well,
Sorry, yeah,
go
go on. I was just going to say, I remember several years ago downloading episodes of Smallville to watch, and I would literally have to start it the night before so I could watch it the next day because it was like a 20 kilobits download speed, you know.
Yeah,
so we've moved on.
Yeah, thank God for that. But yeah, I think, like I say, as you ultimately what we take out of this is, this is the kind of stuff that I think is what Game Pass is all about. It's, to me, it's like the getting the big exclusives day one is a huge bonus, but the more Game Pass goes on, the more I appreciate this type of stuff. These little projects that I would have had initially no intention of purchasing or picking up, and a lot of people would have been in the same vein. Like, you would never have looked at this initially and thought, yeah, I'm going to go and spend money on that. But then you dropped into a subscription service, everybody tries it, and then the next time you release a game like this, it's going to fly off the shelf because people love it. They're just like, absolutely, am I going to spend money on that? Because I played the first one and it's fantastic. So yes, and it was exactly the same with me. The first time I played Nier Automata, and I was like, I don't know whether or not I'm going to like this. I've heard good things about the Nier series. I'm going to pick it up. Played Nier Automata, absolutely loved it from start to finish. And immediately, as soon as he announced Nier Replicant, the remake of the first Nier, I went, yep, absolutely sign me up. That's exactly like, I loved that one, so I'm gonna pick this one up immediately. And that's what this type of stuff is about, specifically for Xbox as well. They can kind of essentially, should we say, unveil a new IP, give it out to the public, and if it does well, happy days, then we can progress with it going forwards. If it doesn't, no sweat.
That's the beauty of Game
We haven't
Pass, though,
lost
the
anything.
discoverability.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of games on there that probably would have just been ignored.
Yeah.
But thanks to having the subscription, they get seen by people that otherwise wouldn't have played it. Like ourselves, there's probably games on there that we wouldn't have touched with a barge pole otherwise.
Yeah.
And then we played them and fell in love with them.
Yep, completely agree. So, I want more of this, please, Xbox. But on a side track, going completely off topic here, but it is the thumbnail for this episode, The Last of Us TV series. Of course, we have mentioned we would love to see this game as an animated series, and there has been massively popular representations of video games in recent memory for the likes of Sonic 2. Both of those were overwhelmingly positive and really fun watches. Then you had, of course, Halo not so long ago, which was good. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a good start. We hope to see better from Season 2 when that comes out later this year. And again, different altogether, because that was a new story in the Halo universe. That wasn't a faithful reimagining of Halo 1 or anything like that. It was a bit of a different story, which is what caused a bit of controversy, because people wanted the original story. They didn't want a remake. They just wanted it faithfully remastered. And then you had the likes of The Witcher, which is one of the biggest success stories ever. A lot of people will attribute that to the books. It's no. As much as you might attribute it to the books, the only reason that's getting made is because The Witcher as a game was popular. Before the game created the game on the back of the books, there was very few people knew what The Witcher was, or The Witcher series for that matter. So it only came to light because of the game. And again, then you're talking, like I mentioned, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, huge success, unbelievable success, and both of The Witcher and Cyberpunk Edge Runners, both of those corroborated with a massive upturn in game sales following their release. Huge upturn.
And even Cyberpunk was not a game before. Well, it was technically a board game. It's like a miniatures sort of game, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that became hugely popular because of the game.
Exactly. And that's Cyberpunk was a game that was pitched we're talking a decade ago. That's another long term. I remember seeing the original trailer for that announcement trailer and thinking, "Holy shit, what is this?" I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And it just went dark.
Yeah, it
It
was
just went
a long time
absolutely
ago.
dark.
Was it like 2014 or something?
Yeah, I think so. If not, maybe it's a little bit longer. Crazy. But yeah, and both of those turned into a massive success on gaming fronts. And which is why I kind of kept laughing at people that were saying, well, Avatar's not that big of an IP. Like, in terms of its game sales, like, it's not going to have, like, Avatar's not going to have a big impact on the game. And I was like, actually, I agree now. Only because the game is delayed. If that game had not been delayed, it would have been a different story entirely. Entirely different story. That game would have absolutely rocketed that game up massively.
Oh yeah, I mean,
still think
like,
it's going to sell well. Still think it's going to sell.
the sales for the Last of Us game went up like 200% after that
250%.
first episode.
Yeah.
250%. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the power of gaming for you. Something comes out that's related to gaming, and people see it and go, "Oh, I heard this was a video game. I'm going to go and buy a console and try it out."
And you know
or
why
I'm going to
that
go
is?
buy that game.
You know why that is? Because the vast
my older
majority of
console.
casual people, and I've seen this loads when The Last of Us was on, the vast majority of casual people who have had family members, not casual people, gamers, who have had family members who are just watching TV, have like messaged their son or messaged their cousin or messaged their brother or whatever it was. Like, oh, have you seen the new Last of Us TV show? It's like super cool. Like, you need to watch it. You'll really enjoy it. It's like, yeah, I've seen it. It's a video game. And they're like, what? It's a game. I need to play that game. So none of them knew it was a game. And now the TV series, and they've mentioned it to somebody else who happens to be a gamer, and they're like, oh, I know. Like, this is a game. Like, this exact story is the game. Like, and they're like, whoa, I need to play that game. So it absolutely corroborates. And this is what people don't understand. Like, if you create a successful TV show that happens to have a video game attached to it or an IP attached to it, it will automatically skyrocket that. Because people Google it. And as soon as they Google, like, if you Google The Witcher, you don't. The first thing that comes up is not the TV series. The first thing that comes up when you Google The Witcher is the game. So when people would have watched that series, they would have been like, Google The Witcher. I'd be like, it's a game? I'm going to buy that game. It's about the game.
I mean, it brings me to the point as well is, I mean, if you thought the sales for Last of Us were high on console, wait till it releases on PC in March.
Yep.
That's going to do absolutely insane because of the TV show. And that probably coincides around about the same time as that TV show is ending. So where are people going to go? They're going to go and pre-order this game and prepare to play it.
Totally. And if the series ends with the same gravitas that the game ends with, then people are going to want to experience that on a PS5. So they're going to go to Last of Us Part 1. And anyone who hasn't got a PS5 will, be able to get the remastered one on PS4.
To me now, why they remade that game.
With this in mind.
I agree. Yeah.
I still don't agree with the $70 because that's ridiculous. That game is missing half of the game it is, so it should not be $70 or £70.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. But to have Part 1 and Part 2 aesthetically look the same now on the PS5 makes sense from an artistic perspective, but also makes sense from a marketing perspective because then you've got the games now, brand new shiny games and a brand new shiny TV show. So it makes sense.
I mean, even mentioning Last of Us 2, if you think most people are going to wait an entire year for the next season, a year plus, however long they're going to take to film, edit, and put that out. People are going to go right to The Last of Us 2. The sales for that are going to go right up as well.
Well, you saw. It's not just that though. Like, I picked up The Last of Us 2 for £14 from Game on physical because it was reduced massively. Now, if you have a look at what happened with The Witcher 3, full bundle, and Cyberpunk were selling for anything less than £20. It was £9 or something you could get The Witcher for. £9. You could get Cyberpunk for a tenner. As soon as Cyberpunk Edge Runners came out and the demand went through the roof for the games, both of those games' prices increased back up beyond 30 quid. Immediately. Because the demand was there. So they're like, holy shit, we need to put this price back up. This is not a £10 game no more. And then, of course, then you've got the DLC for Edge Runners. You've got the upcoming DLC for Phantom Liberty, which I'm looking forward to again at the beginning of this year, which I always forget.
I forgot as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I need to get reinstalling Cyberpunk so I can play it before the DLC.
That's another one I'll be playing strictly on the Series X, though. It's a big game. That.
Yes.
I'll be.
It is a beast.
I've got it installed on Series X, but that's the whole reason for this setup back here. The whole reason for this setup back here is primarily for playing these adventure games, single player adventure games that I can just chill out with. The whole purpose of this little power box here, the Series S, is for me shooters, me action games, me online stuff, me streaming. Like that's where me activity and me party play goes. So yeah, phenomenal. Dave Ramos with the $2 super chat there. He says, "I don't own a PS5. The Last of Us show makes me want to."
Well, it's
fair.
doing its job then, isn't it?
Doing its job, and that's what they're designed to do. That's exactly what they're designed to do. And to be fair, The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 are both really good games, and you will thoroughly enjoy them. If you've got a gaming PC though, you've only got to wait. If you've got a PC that's good enough, you've only got to wait.
3rd of March.
Yep.
Is when it comes out on PC.
3rd of March. So that's a good thing
5
about
weeks.
being.
And you haven't got to pay
multiple-
70 quid for it or $70. It's like 50 quid. So
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go, Dave. So hopefully you have. Hopefully, I don't think some of these games are actually that intensive on your PC. Actually, I think most of the PlayStation ports are actually very hardware. It's weird. Like the likes of Horizon and Death Stranding and all of those are really. It's not just like they're well optimized. They're actually really. They're not hardware intensive. Like the minimum spec.
I know
even like the recommended specs are like 2060s or something like that.
Well, I think I knew someone who said that they could run Spider-Man Remastered on PC on a 1080 Ti, and it ran well. So,
definitely put that investment to good use for the PC porting company they bought.
Nixus.
That's the one, Nixus.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to see it more and more, and great, because more people should be able to play these games. And this is the thing that we're talking about exclusives with Microsoft versus exclusives with Sony. Like the reason the exclusives are good on the Microsoft side is because you can play them on console, you can play them on PC, you can play them on mobile. You've got 3 avenues there to play them. And it's not just PC on Xbox's store, it's on Steam and Epic Games. If you have a look at Redfall, that's Steam and Epic Games. If you have a look at this, it's Steam and Epic Games and Microsoft platform. If you have a look at Starfield, it's Steam, Epic Games, and like you put them on every platform. So if you like playing on Epic Games on that platform, you can do it on that. If you like playing it on Steam, you can download it on that. If you want to play it on the Xbox Store and just use Game Pass Ultimate, you can do it on that. If you want to play it on your mobile, you can do it on that. If you want, then if you want to play it on console, you can Xbox. This is what Sony need to do. Sony needs to continue, and I think it has to sooner rather than later. It has to come a point where they release their games date and date on PC and console.
It will.
I don't understand their thinking, and I don't understand anyone's thinking that if you release a game on PC and console, you're going to lose sales from console. You're absolutely not. They're a different audience. Different beast.
I agree.
Most people that play on PC only play on PC.
Yeah.
They'll wait for your games to come to PC, and that window is getting smaller and smaller. We've seen it with The Last of Us Part 1. It's not even 6 months after it came out.
Yeah.
It's coming to PC. I'm going to prophesy something here. I think after this Last of Us TV series ends, we're going to hear the announcement of The Last of Us Part 2 remaster, and I expect that to come towards the end of this year. And I think that could possibly be a day and date game for PC.
That'll be like a director's. I think it'll be like a director's cut edition. Absolutely agree with you. Director's cut version of the on the PlayStation 5 with DualSense features, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think we'll hear that announcement right after. Well, not right after the show wraps up, but a few weeks after. I fully expect Sony to go, "Oh, look, you've experienced the Last of Us TV series. You've played Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah.
Here's the remastered version of The Last of Us Part 2 coming to PC as well."
Yeah, absolutely. But that's one thing I think Sony need to do is do the PC D&D. It makes absolute sense. You're giving more people the ability to play your games. Your developers have said the same thing. They want their games on PC. They've been telling you this for a long time. They want their games on PC. They want the games in as many hands as they can. If Sony can get into a form of cloud gaming where you can properly play your games on cloud on your mobile, like Xbox does with Game Pass xCloud, if they can do that, do it, Sony. It's only to your own benefit, because more people will buy these games. We're not saying that they have to do it, but if you can do some form of network streaming to stream your console onto your mobile, like Xbox does, where you can do remote play, then do that. But find a solution to do that properly. You can do it kind of, but only if you're in the same network in the same house, which is not quite the same thing on Sony.
Yeah.
But if they manage to do it, it only makes sense. We're not saying you have to release your games on Xbox. Hell no. I wouldn't want you to. That's the whole purpose of having differentiating services and differentiating platforms. But I think having it on PC isn't going to damage the brand in any way, shape, or form. So
no, I don't think so either.
Do it, and quicker, because I think you'll see the benefits.
Yeah.
That aside, though, what do we make of the TV show so far, Fanto? I know have you just seen the first episode, or did you manage to catch both of them now?
I haven't seen the second one. I've seen most of the first one.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I've played the first game, first experienced it on PS3. Then as a leaving present from my old job, actually back in 2014, my old team got me a copy of The Last of Us Remastered as a leaving present, and I was just like, oh, buzzing. So I played it back then as well, but I hadn't played it since 2014. But it's amazing how much I retained of the story in my mind, and beat for beat, I could remember it. It jogged me memory so much. Like the intro of the show, obviously it is a bit different, and it's it takes its time, and it kind of simmers the story a little bit to begin with, and there's a bit more of a build than just throwing you straight into the action that as the game does. But no, there are beats in the show that have definitely been transposed straight out of the game, and you can really feel that. And I'm a massive fan of Pedro Pascal anyway. I think everything he does is he's just one of those classy actors. Obviously
he's got charisma about him.
Yeah, I love him in The Mandalorian. Obviously, I think everyone does.
He was great in Game of Thrones as well.
He was fantastic in Game of Thrones. It was the only time in the whole of the Game of Thrones where, like, his death scene where I actually had to, like, look away.
It was brutal. It
was proper brutal. It was proper harrowing.
Have you played The Last of Us though?
No, I haven't played the second one. I'll tell you why.
I won't say anything now.
I've got. I know all about it. But I got it on sale over Christmas because I've got my PS4 Pro back now. I got it on sale over Christmas digitally for £8.89 off the PS Plus store. So yeah, so I've got that downloaded. I got an SSD for the PS4 Pro now as well. So I've got all of the Sony original and the Sony Entertainment Studio games, like all the God of Wars and The Last of Us and Spider-Man, Miles Morales, all of the games that you can't get anywhere else other than having a good PC. I've got to play on the PS4 Pro, but because Spider-Man 2 is going to be PS5 only, what's incentivizing me to get a PS5 this year, to get that. But as far as the Last of Us TV show so far, I've been pleasantly surprised. I wasn't a big fan of the Halo show, because I was hoping it was going to be more in keeping with the story arc of the games, and it deviated a bit too much, and it took some of the mystery, away from the Master Chief. It's as a character, so I wasn't a big fan of that. But when you have actors like Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, who was also in Game of Thrones, funnily enough, wasn't she? She was young Lady Mormont, and she was awesome in that. And a lot of people, I've seen people shitpost, and as they do, about,
you get it in every bloody TV show. It's ridiculous.
This isn't Ellie, and this, that, and the other. But she's got her acting chops down. And I'm just really.
She might not look like Ellie, but she plays the character perfectly, in my opinion. She
you could
has vocalized Ellie pretty well, and she pulls a lot of those jokes off that Ellie does, like, because Ellie's a little bit cocky and sarcastic, and she pulls that off perfectly.
Absolutely, and Pedro Pascal doesn't look like Joel particularly. I think for the longest time people were on about Josh Brolin was supposed to be Joel, like he is because he looks so similar to the character in the game. But I think they nailed it with the casting, in my opinion, and I'm genuinely looking forward to watching more. Obviously not spoiling it for anyone, but I think the TV show sets up really nicely in that first couple of minutes where it's set in the 60s, and you've got the guy who I can't remember his name, but he was the actor. He was in The Mummy, and he was also in 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
It's like a doctor, scientist guy. And he's like explaining
talking about pandemics and viruses and bacteria,
all, like, the different types of fungus and all that. And
I love all of that sort of thing where there's that sort of setup at the beginning of a story. I loved it. For me, it had tones of Dawn of the Dead, and that's I love the Romero movies, and
I absolutely love them movies as well.
That film, the second one that came out in '77, I think it was, started in a similar way where it was
Dawn of the Dead.
There was a chat show, and there was like 2 guys, hypothesizing about the virus and stuff. Whereas this is obviously slightly different, but it felt to me like it was a bit of a nod to Dawn of the Dead. I might be wrong, but that's what I took away from it. So yes, I've been expecting good things because of the casting and because of the strong subject matter that really resonated with me when I played the game. And I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. So so I'm just looking forward to the rest of the series, to be honest.
Yeah, it really stays. It stays very, very faithful to the original material. Changes a few little bits out here and there, but nothing too drastic.
Nothing to the point where it changes like the plot or anything like that. I do like the way they expand upon certain scenes, like the entire like lead up scene with his daughter. I think that made that entire sequence a little bit more impactful.
Yes,
I agree. It for people that haven't played it, but it really makes that scene before the 20-year time jump way more impactful. And I sat there and I thought, this is what they should have done with the remake. They should have expanded the story a bit more. Unfortunately, they didn't.
Yeah,
because the remake is exactly the same game. I'd call it a glorified remaster.
I also like that they didn't have ambiguous dates. It was like, it was like September the 20-something, 2003 that shit kicked off. And I like stuff like that because it makes me think, oh, what was I doing back then? and you know where I was in my life, and how would I have responded to something like that happening in real life, and just little things like that I really dig and really appreciate. And then obviously the jump now to 2023, and obviously it's a bigger time jump than in the game by a few years, isn't it? But I think that's just, for whatever reason, they've decided to go with the 20-year block rather than, I thought it was like 11 years or something in the original game, but I might be wrong.
No, it is 20 years. Yeah,
Is it 20? All right.
Between the beginning of the pandemic and then what happens at the beginning of that sequence, and there's a 20-year time jump to where Joel and Tess are. And then obviously in between Last of Us 1 and 2, there's a 5-year time jump. So
right.
There's
Okay.
a lot of jumping with time in The Last of Us.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the fact that it showed you the dates.
The one thing I liked about the beginning of the second episode, and I hope they continue to do it at the beginning of the next episode, was show you the origin story of where the infection started. So in the beginning of the second episode, there's a minor spoiler there, Fanto, but you'll get to it and you'll enjoy it. I don't dive into it kind of too much. But they have this whole intro scene before the episode starts with Joel and things of how it came to fruition, how it started, why it started.
I absolutely love that beginning scene because it really sort of puts things in perspective with the cordyceps fungus, because that thing's a real fungus. It affects every single insect population when they reach their pinnacle point. And the scary thing is we never know if it could cross over into humans. It might eventually. The scientist guy in it, I know it's hypothetical, but I've actually read into it, and it's something that you just don't know.
Yeah,
so
essentially,
it's fairly accurate in the science department
the
of it.
scientific part of it in the show, they went on to describe, literally the only reason it's not in humans is because of the temperature. So
the internal temperature of humans can't sustain the cordyceps. And the scientist guy says, but if the climate was to get a little bit warmer, that would force the cordyceps to adapt. And then if it adapts, and it sustains living in those more harsher, heated environments, then it could live in humans.
That made it feel a lot more real, because of obviously everything that we're going through at the minute with the climate crisis and stuff as well. There's just a few little beats that they were added in there that just make you shudder a bit and go Jesus, that could really happen.
You hear sort of how it starts in the second episode in I think it's a wheat and grain factory.
Yeah. And actually, it goes into the first one, because at the beginning of the first one, and this is what you don't get until afterwards, and you think about it. So there's certain scenes at the very beginning that you see where Joel forgets to go and get the cake. That's thankfully he did. Number one, wheat, grain, flour. You've missed that.
Okay.
Second one,
cool.
She was going to make cookies, or she did make cookies. Because she didn't put chocolate chip in it and raisins, she decided not to eat the cookies.
That was the neighbours, right?
Yep.
The neighbours.
Yeah.
She bakes cookies with the neighbours.
Yeah.
She doesn't take some home with her, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Or she does. I don't remember.
Yeah, she was very insistent that she take some, but she didn't in the end, or if she did, she didn't eat them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 2 times they avoided essentially being infected. 2 times, and they didn't even realize it, because at that point they didn't know about this issue in the flour factory over in Japan or Korea,
Indonesia.
Or wherever it was.
I think it's Indonesia.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so well connected. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, right, okay, that makes sense. So he's like, I forgot the cake. Good, bloody job you did there, Joe.
Yeah.
Good job you did. And then it's a good job she didn't like raisins in her cookies, otherwise she would have been deed as well. What she did. So yeah, it's so well connected. But I want to see more of that. I want to see how it actually kicked off in Indonesia. So that they tell you how it happened, but they don't show you D-Day. They don't show you day zero, like the first proper kick-off where everyone's running around and doing things and like biting people.
That is what I want to see more of. And if they were smart, they'd make do with that time to get the role of Ellie to look a bit older without them having to go too deep into makeup, because there is a 5-year time jump. Ellie's 14 in The Last of Us 1, and she's like 19 or 20 in The Last of Us 2. If they were smart, they could make do with that time by having it based on Joel and his brother and what they were doing in those 20 years. There's a lot of missing time there that they can expand the story with.
Totally.
Right,
That
see,
would
even
be...
if you're doing like at the beginning of each, because there's been a few of them that do that. At the beginning of each episode, do like they did in episode 2, where they just have this little flashback to like the original days and what we're kicking off. And I just want to see, because originally the Doctor's like, he asks her outright, he's like, well, so what can we do to beat this thing? Like, is there a cure? She's like, no. He's like, well, what do we do? She's like, just bomb it. Bomb it all. Everyone, including me. Just bomb it. That's the only thing you can do is just destroy it.
Because there's no way to cure a fungus.
Yeah, and then it cuts back into the episode, and that's it. You're like, oh, but what actually happened? Like, how? Like, I wonder how does this?
If they were smart, between season 1 and 2 of the main show, they would do a Last of Us: The Missing Years and have it set in between the beginning events, between day 1 up until
because like what we
20-year time
don't
jump.
know, even what we don't know, because even the game and the series, the only thing you see is Joel holding his daughter who's just been shot and has died, and then it's like flash forward 20 years. Like, I want to see how he got out that situation.
And you hear the seeds in the game that Joel's done some fucked up shit before the 20-year time jump.
Yeah.
I mean, you see hints of that throughout the first game when he's torturing people to find out where Ellie is in the first game. If they were smart, they'd do something with that. Show me that brutal Joel near the beginning of the apocalypse, up to the 20-year time jump.
Yeah, and the things he had to do to survive. Because he's originally he was a normal dude, he was a labourer, he was a construction company, he was all that stuff. And then he had to survive somehow. He obviously wasn't born a killer. So how did he get?
I think they lay seeds that he was in the military in the first game, because there's the veteran sticker on the back of his
sticker
truck.
on the So
military sort of veteran sticker on the bumper of his truck.
Yeah, so he'd seen active service in war zones at some point. So we would probably, from the timeline, possibly, he said he was 36 in 2003. It could have been that he was a Gulf War veteran or something.
And that could explain some of the torture tactics that he knows in the first game. And they could really expand upon those moments. They don't have to do it as the main show. Between the 2 seasons, they could go, okay, we're going to do a season based on Joel in between those 20 years.
Yeah, just call it like Stories of The Last of Us or something. And
Last
of Us: The Missing Years.
How Tess came to be, how all of those came to be. Speaking of which, actually, a little bit of sad news. The original actress that played Tess has passed away.
I literally saw that. I was going to post it in here.
Oh my God.
So yeah, obviously thoughts out to her family and things like that on that one. That's not very nice news. She's still very young in that comparison, but cancer takes no prisoners, no matter what age you are.
Fuck cancer, man.
Yeah.
My mum was only 49 when she passed to cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a bit older. My dad was like pushing his 60s.
It's affected everyone. Everyone knows someone, unfortunately.
Yeah. Still, but yeah, a bit of unfortunate news. But it was in keeping with, speaking of The Last of Us, that we had to mention at the.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thoughts are with them, and of course, I think the lady that played Tess in this has done a good job. Very well represented. But yeah, very unfortunate news, especially for going forwards. But speaking of which, when we're on The Last of Us and talking about that, actually, before we kind of briefly discuss more of a little bit of episode 2, we don't want to ski too much because I don't want to spoil it for Fanto either. As much as you've played the game, of course, seeing it on the telly is a bit different as well because, of course, they've got different visualizations of it.
They do dive a lot in episode 2 as well. There's the whole tower sort of block scene is missing, and that did disappoint me because that's like one of the, I think, iconic moments in the game when you first see the clickers in the sort of broken tower block, and you have to like shimmy around the building and all that. That would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's 9 episodes, so they've got to cut some of the slack here and there. And
and
I still think it does a good job of
just in a different way.
Yeah.
I always remember the bit in the first game that terrified me the most was the clickers in the basement. You know, when it goes all dark.
Yeah.
And you can just hear them. Fucking hell. The first time I played that with headphones on in the dark, I was like, no.
They do the clickers proper justice in this. It was done so well. I'm not going to say it, actually. I'll skip past that. I'll let you see that for yourself. But yeah, there's a great moment, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Speaking of The Last of Us, though, we had a little bit of news from Neil, of course, Neil Druckmann, head of Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog? It is Naughty Dog, isn't it? For The Last of Us and Uncharted. We know Uncharted's not going to continue going forwards, but there's also no guarantee.
That's good. In my opinion, that's good.
Also, no guarantee that The Last of Us 3 will be a thing.
They said that before with the first game, but I don't hold him to that. If there's a story he wants to tell, he'll tell it.
It depends on what avenue he wants to go down, because, of course, as he's seen with a lot of other IPs, big IPs as well, we've seen the God of Wars go and changed, and it's done something a bit different. But you don't want to outstay your welcome either. And there is a few IPs where you're like, it needs a rest. Halo is one of them.
Yeah, I felt like that
Gears
with Uncharted.
A rest. There's a reason Gears is having a rest. It is 4 and 5 were good, but it lacked the horror element that has been there from previous Gears. And we've said this for years. They are great games. Don't get me wrong. I loved 4 and 5. 5 was very entertaining, but 1, 2, and 3 were great for a reason. There was a horror element to it. There was a bit of especially when you go into the oil refinery and things like that for the first time on that, and you see them all crawling around at the top, and you're like, oh shit, like what's going on here? It feels a little bit more creepy, and they lost that. And I think having time to go back and reboot the series again is what it needed. I kind of hope that Neil's on the same wavelength. Like, listen, we're going to take a break from The Last of Us. We've done one, 1 was super successful, 2 was successful. We're going to do something else before
they've got that Last of Us factions, and from sort of what they've hinted towards, that's going to have a story in it. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So, but again, I wouldn't mind that either. I think, especially when you see that, they're like, oh, well, it could easily go off and do something else. Yeah, but can it? Like, unless you explore entirely different characters, which is the exact reason why they're stopping the Uncharted series. Because Nathan Drake's done. Sully done. They don't want to create new characters and continue that universe. They just want to move on. And I think with The Last of Us, you're kind of in the same position. Your main characters are pretty much done. The story arc behind the 2 main characters are pretty much done. Yes, you can go on them having new adventures in this post-apocalyptic world, but it doesn't have the same feel to it anymore because it isn't a brand new post-apocalyptic world. It's not like starting again. It's just continuing your adventures in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, I feel like they should have gone a different direction with The Last of Us 2, in my personal opinion. Like, the first game wrapped up really well, enough to the point where I was like, okay, I don't really need a sequel to it, but I'd take it if you make it.
Yeah.
And I think they should have gone a different direction and had it be set around different characters. Maybe if that's something they'll do going forward, I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll do a prequel, like I mentioned about. They should do that with the TV show and have it be based around Joel and his brother, and do co-op with the game. Do something a little different with The Last of Us. Doesn't have to be a single player experience. You could do it as a co-op game with you playing the player 1 playing as Joel and player 2 playing as Joel's brother.
Yep. I agree. But on that said, I don't mind. I enjoyed Uncharted. I'm more kind of upset that you're not going to continue the Uncharted series. I think that's got more scope to do whatever you like. Essentially, that's just like an Indiana Jones. It's their own version. They're going and they do treasure hunts and things like that, and you can create literally any kind of story you want with that because these are just treasure hunts. Like they're all fun and whimsical.
Yeah, on the other mind with Uncharted, I got tired with it, and I'm feeling the same way about Halo, to be honest.
Yeah, but I understand, and these are both series that have been out for a number of years. They've had a very successful time.
And The Last of Us, not Last of Us, Uncharted's had some spin-off titles as well.
Yeah,
which I didn't play.
Yeah, same. And I can but you can. The thing is with Uncharted is you could easily bring them characters back easily. Well, I've come out of retirement because we've heard about this gold that's been found in such and such, or this secret temple that's been found in such and such, and it's just too big of an opportunity not to go and da, 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 da. You can come up with any kind of story to do that. That's why Indiana Jones is coming back for the film with the original Harrison Ford for the first time in God knows how long.
I was going to say, yeah, if Harrison Ford can do it.
Yeah, of course you can bring them back.
He's like 80 now or something.
Of course you can bring them back. Treasure hunt films are always enjoyable, whether that's Jungle Cruise with The Rock, which was phenomenal, by the way. If you haven't seen Jungle Cruise, go watch it, Disney+.
I haven't actually seen it.
Oh, mate.
I've seen it.
Fantastic.
Best going into it without knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
Just watch
I've
it.
not even seen the trailer, so maybe I'll watch it one day this week.
Thoroughly, if you like the type of characters you'll find in a Pirates of the Caribbean,
yeah,
you'll love Jungle Cruise. The story behind Jungle Cruise, when you get into it, is that of kind of like a treasure hunt, as it were. Fantastic.
Oh no!
Oh god!
There's a Scalebound enthusiast in chat.
Oh, dear God. Easier. No, it's not Scalebound. This on here is not Scalebound. It's better in every conceivable way. It's known as Hi-Fi Rush, Vin. So enjoy the gameplay. But yeah, Vin, you can't talk about Uncharted though, because that's what we're discussing right now. I still think Uncharted's got room to return, more so than The Last of Us does. I think the post-apocalyptic world, once you've got over, and I say this the same about World War Z. World War Z actually can go on further because they kind of just like the whole film was great, and then they kind of wrapped it up at the end. Oh, now we've got a cure, so we're going to do this, and the world's over. They're all fine, fixed. You're like, no, I want to see it. I want to see how we managed to get this done.
I think that's what killed World War Z sequel happening, is the fact that they made that cure thingy at the end of it, and people was like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they bookended it, didn't they?
Yeah, they just bookended it, so that's never going to happen. But what we did see, like, it's the apocalypse films are exciting and great to watch or play as a first time. The reason I say that is because the only reason that film works is because you want to play through the excitement of what happens when the apocalypse kicks off. How do people react? How do people do this? What's the stories behind? Where were they when it started? That's essentially what you want to see. Like when you've got like 20 years into it, and like people are just living post-apocalypse. Like there's nothing interesting about that anymore. It's just like, okay, and that's why Walking Dead died after like 8 seasons, because there was nothing new to tell about zombies.
I watched Walking Dead from episode 1 to the final episode of season 11, and it basically ended up like Little House on the Prairie with zombies. It was just...
They did try and introduce something new with The Walking Dead, and I think it just came too late, because in like the final, I think 4 or so episodes, they start to introduce the idea of these smart zombies, and they can actually climb things and what. It's something that they should have done like 4 seasons ago.
I agree.
It came too little, too late. I was like, okay, well, you're wrapping up the show here, the main show, with these Spider-Man zombies, essentially.
Yeah,
And it was
they
like, it was a
rested
cool
on the
idea.
laurels for far too long. The series, in its concept, the first few seasons were brilliant because you were just on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
Because in the first few seasons, it was like they were all trying to figure out how to survive in this new apocalyptic world.
Have we lost Fano?
I don't know. It's kind of paused a little bit longer than usual here. We shall see. We'll keep going and see what happens to him. Weird.
Wait, is he back? No.
Oh, kind of. There you
There
go.
he is.
Now you're back.
Yep.
Don't know what happened there.
I just put 50p in the meter. Sorry about
that.
Yeah, I was going to say that the reason we were so interested in the first couple of seasons of Walking Dead was because it's all about, like, the first season was okay. It's happened. This what's happening just after it. How are people reacting? Seeing zombies for the first time, and then meeting up with people that have also been lost, and then coming up against other people who have been lost, and like them trying to work together as a group to try and survive, and then coming up against the final one, like another group who are trying to survive, but they're taking anybody else as hostile because, of course, in a post-apocalyptic world, you can't trust anybody because everyone wants to have all the equipment, they want all the food, so they're going to steal and kill for it. And that's what was interesting about seasons 1 through 7.
Yeah, I mean, if they were smart,
ridiculous after
there was a point in The Walking Dead where they introduced a group called the Whisperers, which were basically a group that wore zombies' faces. That's when they should have introduced those smart zombies as well, because it would have introduced more of a horror factor to it, in the fact that who the hell's the zombies and who the hell's these smart zombies?
Yeah.
But I didn't do it.
Yeah.
They really dropped the ball there.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't know whether or not Fanta is like listening intently, or if we... Oh, and there he goes.
Oh, we lost him.
We'll shove it on to two-person for a second there. 2 seconds. There we go. Until Fanto comes back. But yeah, that's kind of what we need in the likes of Uncharted and The Last of Us and all them things. Is you can pretty much do anything with a treasure hunt film. You can bring back anybody. You can always have fun with it. So Uncharted as an IP doesn't need to be Sully and Nathan Drake and all them. It can be anybody. Oh, PC rebooted. Okay. See you shortly. Yeah, it doesn't need to be Nathan Drake. It can be anybody. But it doesn't mean Nathan Drake can't come out of retirement. One last heist.
I think for Last of Us, it needs a shake-up. They need to have a new sort of style of infected. And I think if they were smart, they'd push into the animal kingdom with infected animals. Because could you imagine a bloody infected lion or something chasing you that's escaped from a zoo, that's now got like a clicker head and it's chasing you? That would introduce something new to The Last of Us.
Yeah.
A proper shake-up that it would need.
And you can say we've kind of seen that in I Am Legend, for instance, where you're seeing the zombie dogs for the first time, and they were brutal. And you saw these kind of super zombies, and of course you've got clickers and things in this, but yeah, how they came to be. And then of course you saw there was that heist film in Vegas on Netflix. I've forgotten what that was, but then there was a zombie lion in there from one of the zoos. And that looked absolutely
damn, I can't remember the name of that movie.
You know which one I'm talking about, though, can't you?
Yeah, it's the Zack Snyder movie. Bloody hell, I'm blanking on the name of the movie. Army of the Dead.
Yes, Army of the Dead. That's the one. And you saw the zombie lion and things. And again, if you have a look at the zoo section on The Last of Us, it wouldn't have been cool if there was like one of the zombie lions coming out from.
It would have been cool to see that, like a ape or something like that. I mean, you see the giraffes, like they're not obviously infected.
Or if you've got to think of like rabid zombie dogs and things, because there's so many feral dogs and things in America. You're telling me that there wasn't one feral zombie kind of infected dog running around with like a clicker kind of head? You can go so many routes down here to kind of introduce new horrible beasts that they have to tackle. But it just so happens that the only dogs you see in The Last of Us in the games are all perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's something they could do to shake it up. Like, could you imagine a pack of infected dogs? I know they'd probably go, oh, we're just ripping off Resident Evil, but you don't have to necessarily do dogs. You can do any animal in the animal kingdom. Mountain lion. There's plenty of places in America where mountain lions reside. Infected mountain lion. You ain't got to play the safe game where, oh, we're all only humans that are infected. If that type of virus could, well, not even a virus, if that type of parasitic fungus could infect humans, it'd infect animals too.
Yep.
It infects the entire insect kingdom. Each insect has like a specific cordyceps fungus that affects them. So why couldn't they introduce a different cordyceps fungus that affects the animals?
Hello.
Welcome back.
My PC just completely died, you know, when it gets that sad face and it says something's gone wrong.
Yeah. You're like, oh.
I had to just do a hard reboot of everything. Apologies for that.
It's all right. But yeah, in terms of, like I say, with the likes of Last of Us, aside, and Games Lord said exactly the same thing. He wants a prequel. He wants to see the story behind it. He wants to see the beginning, how the Fireflies came to be, all that stuff. How Ellie came to be.
I'd love to see the story of Joel and Tommy.
Nobody knows Ellie's backstory. Where did she come from? Like, how that kicked off.
Parent.
Well, she wouldn't have been born.
Yeah.
Would she?
Nope.
She would have been born, I think, 5 years or 4 years into the apocalypse. She's 14, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they could have told a story about her parentage, like where she came from, who her parents are. There would have been a mystery to it.
Yeah.
Like you're playing, they could have done it where you're playing as these two characters throughout the entire game, and then at the end of the game, the baby's born. It's Ellie. There you go. There's your story. And then they could have done something totally different. They could have done a game set on the other side of the planet.
Yeah. Well, that's where The Walking Dead's going now, isn't it? The Daryl Dixon story is going to be set in France.
Yeah. I think that's probably the only Walking Dead spin-off that I'm really interested in seeing, just because I want to see the different environments.
I thought Fear the Walking Dead was pretty good.
And then it got ridiculous when they dropped nukes.
Yeah, I haven't watched. The last episode I watched was when they dropped the nuke.
Oh, it got so stupid after that.
And I watched The Walking Dead World Beyond, and I wasn't a fan of that at all.
Oh, I heard bad things about that too. I watched the first episode, and I didn't watch the rest, but I heard bad things.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It really wasn't. It was, I think its one saving grace is that it was a one and done. So it was just like however many episodes, 9 or 10 episodes, and it ended, and that was it. And it had like a couple of little twists in it, story arc wise, which were quite interesting. But apart from that, you weren't missing anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I just want to see what like France looks like in the zombie apocalypse more than anything.
Yeah, I've been saying this for years. Like, you want to see the world have been affected, how other societies and communities have been able to resist the plague, as it were. Like, countries like the UK, where we don't have guns in every home and stuff like that. How would it affect, in a sort of a 28 Days Later style sort of movie? Yeah, I've always intrigued with Robert Kirkman's world of The Walking Dead.
I would say the comics for Walking Dead are way better than the show.
Oh yeah, without doubt.
absolutely love the comics.
But yeah, going back to the games, I think this is for me anyway. Personally, I think you've got a better chance of redoing Uncharted with any characters because, like I say, treasure hunt films. I think you've got any angle to go down on that, and you can create your own treasure hunt thing or an own whimsical story about some secret hidden treasure. But I think apocalyptic series or apocalyptic films stop becoming interesting when you've already got past the kind of initial few years of it. So what happened at the beginning is the most interesting. How did it kick off? Everyone getting infected and how people are surviving. And then a couple of years after it, kind of how everyone deal with being surviving and the contrasting groups. But then once you've got beyond that section and that kind of story's finished, it's just a case of creating more group v group combat, essentially. Like all these kind of this infighting between groups and survivors.
Yeah.
And that starts becoming less interesting. So I think with the Last of Us specifically, the first game was all about what happened at the beginning and the survival. And the second one was essentially kind of a little bit more of a revenge story. And again, the group v group stuff.
The factions.
Yeah. And in between the two of them, these two opposing factions that had grudges against each other. But now that story arc's finished. Like, there's no real reason to progress personally to progress forward with that. I think, as pointed out, it's better to go back and show more of what happened after Ellie got after his daughter got killed. Like what happened between that point and the 20 years later. There's a big gap there that nobody knows about. That would be a more interesting story to tell.
That could be a good thing for The Last of Us. I mean, like, it'd be cool to see like the entire years leading up to when they first discovered the first clicker.
Yeah. And like you said, and even in the series as well, it's just like, oh, have you ever killed anybody before? Or like, killed any clickers or any zombies before? It's like, oh yeah, lots. And obviously by that point, it's I think the first time you see him killing them. So okay, so how many is lots? How many did he have to kill to get where he is now? Where he's like this really cold-hearted guy, like doesn't care. So that would be more interesting, but specifically with Uncharted, like I say, with Uncharted, it's a treasure hunt. It's a classic treasure hunt thing, like Indiana Jones is, like you can like Tomb Raider is, and that's still going. You can literally go down any avenue with a treasure hunt, but with
and it'll have broader. It has broader appeal.
Treasure stories pretty much can write themselves.
Yeah,
that's why Tom Holland was in the movie.
Yeah.
I've still not seen it.
No, me neither.
I have. It's okay. It's not the worst. It's an easy watch. But, and I still stand by this, the perfect casting was always Nathan Fillion by that little fan-made section that was on the internet.
It was so good.
Like an 8-minute fan movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's pretty much based on Nathan Fillion, right?
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Just get Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, it is.
Super cheeky, super sarcastic. He's having loads of fun in it. He was perfectly placed, and Sully was perfectly cast as well. Like both of them, exactly who needed to place both of them. But we got Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland. So
yeah.
I'll never understand the Mark Wahlberg cast in there. Never.
No, Mark Wahlberg's definitely not Sully.
No.
It's crazy.
Never mind.
Fun fact, I used to be friends with Nathan Fillion on MySpace.
That's so random.
Yeah.
Oh, dear me. But yeah, so, I mean, initial early impressions of The Last of Us TV show before we wrap up. Very, very good so far for me personally. Obviously, it holds up very well against the original story. It obviously takes some artistic liberties and expands on certain parts. It changes a little bit different directions in certain areas, but not to sidestep the story at all. It's still very much the original story, so they haven't changed it. They've just added to it. So yeah, good so far. Looking forward to seeing the rest of it, really. But it's, again, I go week to week. I'm not uber excited to watch it every week, and the only reason I'm not is because I've played the game, so I know what to expect. It's a case of what part of the story am I getting next week? How much of the story am I getting next week?
I believe it's Bill and like the town that Bill lives in. That's the story we're getting next week. Well,
Right.
tomorrow.
Right. Okay. So that's, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but not like, I'm not one of them like where I have to make sure I'm super excited because I played the game, so I know what to expect. The difference is with Halo is that we didn't know what to expect because it's nothing to do with the game. It's an entirely new story. So there's two contrasting things there. But overall, production value, absolute quality. The set designs,
you'd expect it,
quality.
considering like the entire first season of The Last of Us is basically the budget of Game of Thrones season 1 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
The acting is
that's
quality.
crazy.
The sounds are quality. The atmosphere is quality. From a visual and audio perspective, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Really great casting. So, yeah, keep it up. Looking forward to seeing more of it, and looking forward to seeing people's reactions when season 2 drops and the first episode finishes.
Oh God!
I wonder who's going to play the golf club. What's your overall impression so far, Jen?
I absolutely love it, but I do wish that they'd veer a little bit off from the main story because
Yeah,
I've seen it all before. Played The Last of Us Part 1, well, before it was called Part 1, at least 3 or 4 times.
yeah.
And I'm looking to pick up Part 1 when it goes down in price, and I'll be streaming that.
Part 2, you mean?
Part 1. I'm going to go through both of them again.
Right. Okay.
After the show's wrapped up, though, I'm in no immediate rush to get to that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay 70 quid for that game. Might pick up the first game on PC when that comes out. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. Budget is bloody awesome. And you can see they put that budget to good use. Casting is near perfect. The actress that plays Ellie pulls off Ellie pretty well. She pulls off her sarcastic comments. There's a part in the second episode where she's playing on that little piano, and then Joel calls her a weird kid, and she immediately says to him, "You're a weird kid." It's just childish banter you'd expect from like a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
That's the sort of shit that I would say to my parents when I was a kid, just because I was a sarcastic little asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, I expect the show to be solid all the way through. I mean, it's hard not to when they've stuck to the script of the game pretty much. They do expand certain things and they do change out certain things, like I mentioned about them missing that entire office sort of tower block section, which I would have loved to have seen, but I get it. I get why they cut it. But yeah, I just want to see more of the other parts of the story we don't know about, like what happened in those 20 years, and maybe we'll see some of that throughout this show. But
maybe
don't know
Do
yet.
you know
Just
how many episodes?
9.
9.
I believe it's 9.
Okay.
What about you, Fanto? What's your thoughts on it so far?
Yeah. All again, impressed with with obviously a big budget production. The casting is spot on for me. It's like lots of actors who I really enjoyed in other things, but not actors who have been typecast in other things. You know, they lend their talents quite well to whatever they do, and I think that's really good as well. I'm actually looking forward to watching the rest of the series more now, having discussed it and talked about, you know, the nuances of the story. and it's making me want to go back and play the first game again as well, because it's just, it has those beats from the first episode that reminded me of playing that game. Whereas, I'm not going to play part 1 for the foreseeable, but I sure as hell can play the remastered version anytime I want. So pleasantly surprised, not shocked it's good, or at least I think it's good so far, because of obviously everything that's gone into it and the people that are involved with the project. But again, nothing but praise from me. It's been a good week for media consumption, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And long may that continue. It's only the start of 2023, so we've got a lot to look forward to. We've got a lot at the end of this year. We've got the season 2 of Halo. We've got the final season with Henry Cavill as The Witcher.
I'm not really going to bother watching that, to be honest.
I'm going to watch
I know that the change of actors come in, and I don't care for it, to be honest. I don't think much of
I'm going to watch the final
Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah. I'm going to watch the final Henry Cavill one, and I think that'll be me done with The Witcher. I don't think Liam's going to play a good Witcher.
He's not a great actor. I mean, he does all right, but he ain't no Chris Hemsworth.
Nope. But never mind. And then we've got a mountain of games in between, and animated series, and so it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year for media and game consumption, and we've only just started.
Oh yes,
hallelujah. But we'll wrap the show up there, and we'll get everybody away. But guys, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you had an awesome Sunday, or having an awesome Sunday. If you're in the US, of course, and it's still early doors. Hope the rest of your week goes quickly. If you like this show, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Of course, it helps very much. And of course, those on demand, I also hope you enjoyed the show. And of course, the same. Please like, share, and subscribe if you can. It does help against the evil consortium of YouTube algorithm. So please help where you can. Other than that, though, guys, let's get your outros and get you out of here. But first of all, General C, my co-host, let people know where they can find you and what you've got coming up.
You can find me on my Twitch channel, streaming at the weekends. Should be back this weekend coming. That's the_General_C. Same for Twitter. A little bit of a delay on my Dead Rising video. I got a whiteboard and I've brainstormed the entire video out now, so I've got a good idea of what I'm going to do with that video. Hopefully should have that out sometime between the first 2 weeks of next month.
Nice. And of course,
everyone
can find you everywhere at the General C. The_General_C.
Yep, that's on Twitter and Twitch.
Awesome stuff. And of course, our special guest today, Fanto Sir. Thank you for being here this week, sir. And let people know where they can find you and what you've got coming up.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. You can find me on PlayStation Network as Fanto_Sir, on Xbox Live as Fanto Sir, on Twitch as Fanto_Sir, and YouTube as Fanto Sir. I will be starting to do some streaming on Twitch on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Nice.
After the midweek mix-up and the weekend edition, because they're basically 2 nights of the week that I don't have to look after the kids as much.
Nice.
So, like I've kind of So I'm piggybacking on the back of the podcasts and thinking, well, I'll start streaming at about 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And then basically stream as long as I can on a Wednesday night and a Sunday night. So I'm going to start that from this coming Wednesday.
Awesome.
I was going to start it tonight, but I'm going to watch The Last of Us instead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
So yeah, Sundays.
Brill. Looking forward to watching that then, and we'll share it out so we'll get some new viewers in for you there. and all the best for that as well, starting your streaming.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's been a blast
Good luck
having
to you, mate.
It's been good discussions, and of course, I know we gushed for a long time over Hi-Fi Rush, but it's worth it. It is
Hi-Fi Gush.
But yes, other than that, again, once more, thank you to everybody who tuned in this evening. Hope you have an awesome rest of your weekend and your work week goes quickly. But again, until Tuesday for Tuesdays and Wednesday for the midweek mix-up, we shall see you all later. Have an awesome night and goodbye.
Ice and flames call my name. I freeze, I burn, I blame. I love, I hate the same. It's on my face, I cannot hide from the mistake my parents made. I'm never moving on. Not made from love, a remnant of a selfish motive. Was I needed? Do I need it to go wrong? Polarized, inherent pain pumping through my veins. Ice and flames call my name. I freeze, I burn, I blame. I love, I hate the same. If I embrace the side of me, I only fuel the fire. But is it wrong for me to fight against the balance of my power? History in halves, one brain. I will break the chain. Oh no, tokori wa yobu. Moeru rame koru to pop no ai to kirai ni iru.